Would I be the a-hole if I broke up with my boyfriend of 4 years over his 40 plus body count? We dated for 3 years, broke up for 2 years, and now we're trying to make things work again for the past year or more. We have an insane amount of trust issues due to his infidelity in the past. Things have been hard, but we're doing better than ever. Tonight we had a discussion, and he brought up the fact that he'd slept with 20 plus women in 1 year while we were broken up. Before we dated, he had slept with 20 plus women, and I thought that was his hoe phase, but now I'm finding out he doubled it since. I'm struggling to view him the same. I'm almost disgusted by how many women he went through in just 1 year. It makes me question his fidelity going forward. His view on sex and whether it's just a transaction to him or not. I'm worried about his impulse control, and I'm worried that what he acts like when he's single, doing coke and effing everyone, is a statement to his character and not just some phase. And then on a personal level, I'm afraid I don't live up to the sex history he has and the caliber of women he can get. This has made me all extremely insecure. He told me to try and figure out if this news changes whether I want to be with him or not and get back to him because he doesn't want to feel judged. I wanted to marry this man, have his kids, all of it. Now I can't even look at him. Will this pass, or should I just end it? Geez, I have a pretty good idea what the comments are going to say here. Considering he cheated on her in the past, yeah, there's no way this is going to end with a happy relationship. Let's go to the comments. First mistake was you trying to get back into a relationship with someone who was not faithful the first time round. Why are you forcing yourself to get past trust issues when he's the reason you have them? You completely ignored your gut telling you to run. Don't expect a healthy relationship with a person who doesn't even take commitment seriously. You're disgusted with his body count, but not him cheating on you? Marry someone worthy, someone who is good to you whilst you're actually dating, or else you'll just end up divorced in 2 years when he cheats again. His body count shouldn't be at all what you're worried about. He's cheated on you in the past and he has been doing coke, and your main concern is how many people he's slept with outside of your relationship? How in the world is this the man you want to marry and have children with, girl? Not the a-hole. His view on sex. In my opinion, that's what it comes down to. It's not a good or bad thing to have any kind of body count. It's bad to be hypocritical about it. What flies for me doesn't fly for thee, but it's definitely fair to use this information. Just be honest with yourself about why you judge things. He's not the kind of person you like, versus you're insecure, and would continue to be unless addressed. You seem already clear that you want family, but the person you're with is more of a square peg you're trying to fit into that picture. Yeah, hard to disagree with any of those comments really. Let's go to the update. Did not expect the original post to blow up so much. Definitely goes to show how controversial a body count can be to everyone. I've learned that everyone is owed their opinions, and personally 40 plus people in your 20s is a lot, but I do have views more so on the conservative side of things, so each to their own. I want to give a bit of a backup story and answer some questions. First time we dated, we were living together and I was a paranoid, insecure and controlling girlfriend. It pushed him away and ruined the relationship. When I went through his phone once, I found he was on multiple dating sites, but had never physically met up with anyone. I do still consider that cheating regardless of not having physical contact. During our breakup, he had a brief relationship, but spent most of that time exploring his single life. I can't be mad at that. I wasn't in the picture, and although I can have my own opinion, I really can't judge what happened during that time. Personally, I was in a relationship with the first man I had sex with after we broke up. I dated him for the majority of the 2 years we were broken up, so even if he effed 20 women, I'm pretty sure I was having more consistent sex than he was altogether. I think some of my hurt is stemming from jealousy, either jealousy that I didn't get to have a hoe phase, or jealousy that he was able to get a plethora of women back home with him. I'm bi, but don't have much experience with women, but I definitely don't want or need a hoe phase, and I don't think having threesomes with him would be healthy for my mental health. I'm trying to navigate these emotions the best I can. Now for the update. I didn't sleep at all after he told me about his single life. When he woke up, I decided to ask some important questions that were sending my mind in a spiral. I asked why he did it, if he was attracted to the thrill of pursuing new women, if he was attracted to the variety of women, or if he was desperately looking for a relationship. He explained that he was just a single, horny man, and he would take girls home, and either he didn't like how the sex went, or he realised immediately that he couldn't stand them and would just have casual sex and move on. He explained that he wasn't attracted to the variety or pursuit, and he didn't actually enjoy not being able to find someone compatible. We kept in touch during this time, and he would tell me how he still loved me, how he couldn't help but compare to me and my mannerisms or personality, and no one ever matched up. So when we finally did get back together, he would always tell me he was so happy he wasn't out there single, because all he ever wanted was me, and he jumped right back into my life the second I gave him any bit of wiggle room. I asked him for validation, and he gave that to me. I needed to know why he wants to settle down with me, if he still talks to or knows any of these girls, if he used protection, if he still desires other women, etc., etc. He gave me all the validation that I needed to know that regardless of his sexcapades, that he loves me and wants to be with only me for the rest of his life. And I believe that. If he could be with 40 plus women or more and he chooses to sit here and talk with me for hours about how much he loves me, then yeah, that's got to show that he's putting in effort and time to make sure I feel special. He used protection the entire time, and we both had STD tests done before we started hooking up again. All of the women were found at a bar, so there's no chance of him being able to still contact them. I'll just have to trust him on that. I think the next step is to get back into couples therapy with him and discuss how things move forward with this new information. But to me, I still love him just the same. He's still the same man to me, still the man I want to marry and love for the rest of my life. It may be taboo to try and make a relationship work after trust issues, but I've always had them. I have major trauma from abuse in past relationships, and I will always struggle trusting people. This is something we both agreed on having to work and deal with, and he has showed tremendous effort in accommodating my feelings in our current relationship. Thank you to everyone who answered with stories I can relate to, or advice from similar relationships. It helps a lot to hear that other people are capable of making that dynamic work. I appreciate all the responses, whether they helped or not. I'm taking everything with a grain of salt because I really can't rely on Reddit strangers to give me answers in my romantic life. I just enjoy venting. And especially thank you to the person who messaged me to inform me that mods were deleting answers, that were agreeing that high body counts are red flags, trying to control the narrative. Again, to each their own. Alrighty folks, that's the end of that one. Yeah, definitely didn't expect the ending to end as positively as that, but hey, good to hear, and good luck, I guess. What do you guys think about that one? Let me know down below. Alright, let's move to our next story. Alrighty, this next one's from the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was written by user Psy31123, and it's titled, Cousin falsely accused me of sexual assault. Now my family is contacting me after almost 10 years. Hi, I've never had an account on Reddit before, but someone on another forum linked to this subreddit, and I've been reading some stories. If this is the wrong subreddit, please let me know. Also, English is not my first language, so bear with me. It's pretty much like the title says. I just feel so lost on what to do. This is tearing up wounds, and old rage is building again. Let me give some backstory. I grew up in what was probably the most normal of normal households. Parents worked a lot, but still managed to care for me and my 3 older sisters. We were never super close as a family, but never had any issues either. Same goes for my extended family. They always lived a few hours away, but we saw each other during summer holidays or Christmas, and always got along great. But when we got older, we naturally grew apart, as everyone had their own lives. I'm 31 now. In 2014, when I was 22 and attending uni, I got a phone call from my mother that turned my life upside down. I remember I didn't even answer at first, because I was gaming with friends, but she called again immediately after the first call. This was an unwritten rule in the family. If you call twice like that, it's important. Like someone died important. So when she called again, I excused myself and answered, only to hear chaos in the other end. Like people were arguing, but when my mum realised I'd answered, it sounded like she went to another room and closed the door. I just asked what was going on, and I heard she was crying. My memory of this conversation is a bit blurry, but she basically asked me if I had something to confess to, regarding Eve. Eve is my cousin on my mum's side and is 7 years younger than me, 15 at the time. At that point, I hadn't even seen Eve for several years. I just said no and asked what this is about. She just cried even harder and started accusing me of sexually assaulting Eve back when we were children, that Eve had told everything to my sister, and that my sister told my mother and my aunt. Eve had told them that back when she was 9 and I 16, she'd been playing in my room when I came in and started feeling her under her clothes and kissing her. My mother screamed at me to say something, but I couldn't even speak. It was all so absurd. I remember thinking that must be some bad joke. The last thing I remember saying was that it's not true and that Eve is lying. But then my mum goes on saying that how Eve gave such a detailed description of where and how. Then she kept asking something like, "Did you do this? Did you do this?" And I just screamed back at her, "No," each time. It all ended with my mum putting me on speaker and both my mum and dad saying that they don't want anything to do with me and never to contact them again. 2 of my sisters texted me later that day, pretty much saying that I'm disgusting, and then blocked me. I know it's weird, but after that call, I went to have a long shower. To this day, I still don't know why I did that. After calming down, I started calling and texting everyone, even Eve. No one answered, and the ones who hadn't blocked my number by then quickly did so. The only thing I heard back was from my father, who texted me to stop contacting them, and that they need to heal. That was 9 years ago, and I haven't spoken to anyone in my family since that day. To say this effed me up is an understatement. I was living in a haze for weeks after that, and hardly ate at all. It didn't help that this was right before I was supposed to defend my bachelor's thesis and was already stressed out. Luckily, my co-writer sensed something was up and saved me by controlling the conversation so that I got the easy parts. Without him, I'm sure I would have failed. Needless to say, no one came to my graduation. Then started the worst period of my life. I spent the first year expecting the cops to knock on my door and arresting me for sexual abuse. I didn't land any jobs, just lived off my saved money. I drank a lot and did oxy. I also grew resentful and violent. The only reason I didn't hurt anyone is because no one was around. My neighbour called the cops on me once after I'd smashed a glass, but I managed to convince the officers that I'd just dropped it, and they went away since there were no others inside my apartment. Instead of sleeping, I spent my nights planning how I could hurt Eve and make sure no one ever found out, even thinking how I could actually do the things she had accused me of, but much worse. I know, I'm not proud of that. I landed my first real job in my field in late 2015. Only then did things start to improve. I focused all my time on my job, as it gave me something normal to do. Recovery was a slow process, but I drank less, I'm sober now for 4+ years, and smiled more. I lived cheap and earned good money, so I made a point of buying myself a nice gift for my birthdays, a VR headset, a motorcycle, Lego, etc. And last year I moved from my crappy apartment and bought a small house. It was an old dream of mine to have my own garage and a garden to care for. This has boosted me even more. So my life is okay now. I still got problems. I've been on antidepressants for the last few years, and while they help, it's not in a happy way. They simply remove the dark thoughts and replace them with dead ones. My trust in other people is close to non-existent. I've tried dating, but only been on 2 dates with 2 different women. It's really hard to speak like a normal person when it comes down to it. And what would I tell a potential partner when she asks about my family? Oh, they accused me of a heinous crime and we're not talking anymore. But I didn't do it, I swear. My field is very male-dominated, so the only women I speak to is my therapist, who I like a lot. If this text was difficult to follow, I apologize. I'm not good with words on the best of days, and I started rambling a bit when it all came back to me. It's already getting long, so I'll fast forward to my current issue. A few days ago, I received a text from my mother. It felt unreal, and I was scared to open it at first, so I just stared at the notification for hours before opening it. Yesterday, another text followed. Translated, they basically say, "Hi, it's been so long since we talked. We miss you, and want to know how you're doing." Here she writes a long text about my sisters and how my nieces and nephews are getting big. I didn't even know I was an uncle. Know that we love you and always will. Mum and Dad. Text 2. Hi, we understand if you don't want to talk to us after what happened, but please listen. Last month, the subject of you was brought up at a family gathering. During this, Eve was downplaying everything that had happened to her. It got so awkward that she finally admitted that nothing happened and that she probably just dreamt it. We were all appalled by this. When we last spoke, we wanted to protect Eve and did the only thing we thought we could do. We know that's not excusing how you were treated. What Eve did was wrong and we're all angry at her. We have called everyone that knew and told them the truth. We all want to speak with you and your sisters want you to meet their families. Please write back if you can find it in you to forgive us. Mum and Dad. So yeah, that's my situation right now. I haven't answered, but they no doubt know I've seen it. Truth be told, I'm seething. So many old crappy memories are now stirring again. I don't want to forgive them, and I wouldn't trust myself to be in the same room as them right now. Part of me wants to call my family and unleash everything on them, to guilt them with everything I went through until they all hit their rock bottom. Then dedicate my life to make my cousin's life as miserable as possible. The other part wants to ignore them and continue with my okay-ish life with my motorcycle and my garden to keep me company. I don't have any friends. The only people I speak to are my co-workers, but we're not really close. I've called my therapist's clinic, but they told me she's on vacation and won't be available for weeks, and I don't want anyone else than her. So that leaves internet strangers. So please, where to go from here? Do I ignore them and continue as is? Or do I answer? And if so, what to even write? I'm pretty sure meeting them in person would be a bad idea for a foreseeable future, but I'm not even sure how my life can improve from picking up those old threads. As embarrassing as it may sound, I've dreamed about the day when they apologized to be them throwing themselves to the ground and kissing my feet. Texting seems so anticlimactic now. Man, why would the cousin lie about something like that? This reminds me of that movie, it's a Danish movie called The Hunt with Mads Mikkelsen in it. And it's about like this kindergarten girl that falsely accuses her teacher of a similar thing, and for just seemingly no reason at all. It just baffles my mind how this happens, and there honestly should be consequences for it because it does ruin people's lives. But yeah, I can definitely see how it would be a tricky subject to tackle, especially if it just comes down to one word against the other, you know. That being said, I don't think the family acted, irresponsibly or out of line in any way. I think it's fair enough that someone would assume that someone telling a story like that would be telling the truth. Otherwise, why would you tell that story in the first place? This is the confusing part about it. So yeah, I definitely think there's room for forgiveness for the family here, but definitely not for the cousin. Let's see what the comments say. Your family left you unread for 9 years. They can wait a few weeks. I'm really sorry this happened to you. It is disgusting they all treated you like a pariah when you did nothing. I hope someday you will be able to trust again. Good luck to you. Wait until your therapist comes back. I understand it will be a couple of weeks, but it will be worth it. Let her guide you on what to do and when to do it so that you can do this in a healthy way, whether it's to not ever talk to them or build a relationship back. It's okay to leave your family unread. They'll just have to deal with it until she gets back. Wishing you the best. Opie replies, to be honest, I didn't have the mindset to think I could wait that long. I just heard weeks and thought it might as well be years. Thanks. I think I'll do that. Alrighty, on to the update. Hi. It's been a while since my last post and I can't count the people asking me for an update, so I thought I'd post one, even though there's not much to say. Firstly, I'd like to get a few things out of the way. 1. Thanks all who wrote and offered support and advice. I'm sorry I couldn't reply to all, but know that I've read them. Also, thanks to everyone who reached out to distract me with talks about my hobbies. I know I wasn't very responsive, but I know you meant well. To the openly hostile ones, borderline threatening me to quit antidepressants and cancelling and instead accept, insert religious figure here, into my life, no. 2. Many people told me I should pursue legal action. I didn't mention this in my first post, but I decided against that long ago for a few reasons. Best case, she would get a slap on the wrist and I wouldn't gain much at all. I just don't think it's worth the legal headache, and if I somehow would end up losing, I'll owe her legal costs. 3. A lot of people have been messaging me about the fake updates. As I wrote in an edit to my other post, there are some fake updates on TikTok and YouTube. So if you saw something on other platforms that you didn't read in the text below or in the post linked above, it wasn't by me. While I don't really care about people making fake updates, I just want everyone that read my original post that these videos are not by me. Someone even claimed they had access to my original post on relationships which contained these updates. That is false. With that cleared up, I'll add what's actually going on with my life right now. Know that I wrote the original post in an anger, and because I was completely lost on what to do, I needed a kick to the head, and I got that within like the first 5 to 10 comments. That was really all I needed. I've met my therapist. I was first scheduled for September, but she managed to move it, and we've had 2 talks so far. She also read the original post and many of your comments. While she would have preferred me to confide in a colleague of hers, in the end she was glad you guys told me to calm down a bit and wait. She knows firsthand how I can get when angry. I won't go through everything we talked about, but it comes down to that I may respond to my parents at some point, but if I do, it won't be anytime soon. I've started writing everything down that I want said to my family, and then my therapist and I will go through those things continuously. For those who asked, they haven't tried to contact me further. I will not be updating this issue anymore, not on Reddit, including DMs, or anywhere else, in case of more fake updates. Nor will I be commenting unless it's something very important. I don't want to be rude and I appreciate all the support, but it really is draining sometimes. I was almost glad when the moderators locked the comments on the first post. I'd like to end by saying thanks again to all the people who's been wishing me well and checking up on me. And for the people writing to check that I'm still alive, don't worry, you don't have to do that. I'm off work for a while and not by the computer much. I'm busy painting my garage. Okay folks, and that's the end of that one. Give me your thoughts down below. Yeah, I'd say a fair enough decision made there on the family. You know, give it time, write down your thoughts, and get in contact when you're ready. Just ask the reserved guy I like out. I'm a pretty outgoing lady. I've never been afraid to make the first move. I've been flirting with a coworker of mine for about a month. I keep dropping hints like lobbing watermelon kind of hints. He was sweet and flirtatious in his own way, but any kind of verbal flirt was never the response. He's the kind of guy who keeps to himself most of the time, but when he does speak, he's so freaking funny and you don't expect it. He likes dad jokes and so do I. So I started meeting him at his speed. I asked for his number to send him silly memes. After exchanges of memes for a couple weeks, convos actually began, but then I still couldn't get him to take the hint of asking me out or being any more flirtatious than he was. I figured maybe he was just nervous of overstepping. So, like the confident woman I am, I finally just told him if I was being honest, I found him quite cute, and might he be interested via text. He didn't respond for a while, so I joked if it was a swing and a miss. To my surprise, he said no, he's just not very good at this and never knows what to say and gets stuck in his own head, but that he thought I was cute too. The honesty. So I took the initiative and asked him to lunch, naming the time and place, and he was thrilled. Ladies, if you know you got the guts and he's a quieter fella, or just a guy worried about making the first move, take the lead. Ask him. Be direct and specific with your intentions. It pays off. I got me a cute lunch date in the park. Edit. Just for the record, he did flirt back with me, as stated, just more subtle, lol. I was just trying to get the ask out. He's quiet and wasn't sure of himself, so I asked. No big. People out here are crazy because they think he wasn't responding and I was being desperate. Dude just needed permission to be more engaging than he was. Now he's messaging me non-stop and talking about what to have for lunch with me. Update. Date went really well. We laughed together the whole time and got to know each other a bit more. He said in hindsight he could see I was flirting, but he's really bad with hints and can't be too careful at work, so didn't want to assume. He said he was glad I asked him out and asked if I would like to do this again soon. Can't wait. Oh wow, nice wholesome story to start us off. Let's have a look at the comments. So I started meeting him at his speed. I think this is incredibly empathetic of you. Instead of just trying to show off and impress with looks and personality and hoping that that will make someone want you, to actually take time to understand what the other person wants and needs, which will build a much stronger relation further on. Something I would add for the women reading this is that if you're not comfortable making the first move or anything like that, is to make it known to the guy you're interested in that it's okay for him to make the first move. Many men are consciously aware that women are on the defense when around them until they get to know them better, so they don't want to risk making a move at all, so they don't come across as creepy, inappropriate, etc. How you make it known is up to you, and probably depends on the context and setting, but there's probably a way to do it for your situation. A good guy wants to know that he's not going to be a creeper if he tries flirting with you or asking you out. I recommend actually being forthright if you have interest, no matter the type of guy. I've never been the quiet type, but you could slap me with a card saying bang me and I still wouldn't get it. Yeah, I think I can relate to that in some degree as well. And I feel like guys are just generally a lot more cautious about that sort of thing. And because guys generally don't get hit on as often, then they're not as familiar with the signs and are generally less likely to pick up on it. Alright, let's go to the update. So, back in April I asked my coworker out, flirted for about a month or so. Feel free to check my history if you're new and need a refresher. I tried everything I've done in the past that has successfully worked. He wasn't registering any of my hints, so I flat out told him I thought he was cute and was wondering if he'd like to do lunch in the park with me. We met for lunch, had a nice time, and agreed to do it again. Come to find out, at 28 years old, he really never had an official girlfriend before, and just kind of kept to himself. He told me he'd been on a couple dates, but they never went anywhere, and while he wanted to be a more sociable person, he wasn't very much, and he worked a lot, and he also didn't want to assume when we were at work, which is fair. It is now 8 months later. After 1 month of dating, he nervously asked me if I would officially be his girlfriend. I said yes. We both love brunch, so we do that a lot when we need an us day. We started going to the gym together. We both found our motivational partner in each other to encourage us when the other isn't feeling it that morning. We have gone on several adventures: tubing, beach weekend, Renaissance fair, camping, Halloween party, and we have so many holiday plans. He is the sweetest sentimental soul and has made us photo collages of some of his favourite dates, which reminds me of my grandfather and how he was the one who captured every moment in my grandparents' photo albums. After 3 to 4 months, we exchanged I love yous, which he waited to do because I did, because I have trauma, so he waited for me to be ready. I needed that. I make us both a well-balanced dinner for work, and he bought us bento boxes as lunchbox out of appreciation, and he does the dishes when I cook dinner for us at our places, so important. We communicate so well. He is so open to discussing anything and everything, from little things to serious life things, even if it's hard, and it is amazing. We agree politically, religiously, financially, and he is just as silly as I am humour-wise. He is patient and understanding with my health conditions, and never makes me feel less than a queen, which for me is important because I've always been made to feel like a burden by others in my past over this. He hypes up my art, and I hype up his craftsmanship. There's so much that he provides that I've never gotten before. I'm so glad to have him in my life. I didn't know what to expect going in, only that he was cute and nice, and he is honestly everything I've been looking for. Side note, creating a post in a different subgroup to be exclusively rude about someone because you're skeptical of their story is not nice, okay? Spread love, not hate. I hope you all find your king, queen, royalty someday. Have a lovely day, and know that you are worthy of love. Oh, what a great ending message to a great story. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any similar feel-good stories. I'd love to hear from you. Either way, let's go to our next story. Okay, this next one was written on the Today I F'd Up subreddit. It was written by user LazyBear90, and it's titled, Today I F'd Up by donating $15,041 to a poor community in Bangladesh instead of the $150 donation I intended. This happened in February of last year, but my friends have been telling me I need to post this story online, so here goes nothing. My wife and I, both 31 years old at the time, moved into a new 3-unit apartment building in San Francisco. One of our neighbours is a 70-something-year-old retired veteran. We'll call him Joe. For context, Joe is a white American guy and he's also a devout Hindu priest. One day I run into Joe in my hallway and he tells me about this charity he manages for a community in Bangladesh. I wanted to support my neighbour and the charity, so I asked Joe to send me the GoFundMe link. The next day at work, I go on the GoFundMe page and donate $150, or so I thought. Moments later, I get a text on my phone warning me of an unusually large transaction on my credit card. I'm confused and swipe to open the text message. It says I've made a payment of $15,041 to GoFundMe. Immediately I'm sweating. How could I have donated $15,000? I spent the next 10 to 15 minutes retracing my steps, and finally I realised my credit card starts with the numbers 4 and 1. It seems I'd accidentally started typing my credit card information while my cursor was still in the donation box. And just like that, 150 became 150,041. Yikes. I call GoFundMe's support line in a panic, and when I finally connect with a human, I explain what happened. No need to worry, he tells me. They will initiate a refund of the transaction, which should process in 3 to 7 business days. That's a huge relief. But then I ask the agent if the charity will be able to see the donation on the GoFundMe page until it is refunded. What do you mean? The agent asks me. What do you mean? What do I mean? Was my response. Will they be able to see the $15,041 donation? Unfortunately, yes, the agent tells me. They'll be able to see it until the refund process is complete. I tell him that's a big problem, as the entire GoFundMe had hardly raised that much at that point. Surely they'll notice their fundraiser doubling overnight. My plan was to knock on Joe's door the following morning to give him the full story, so that he could pass it along to his contacts in Bangladesh. But when I woke up the next morning, I looked at my phone and saw I had 40 plus notifications on Facebook. Someone had sent me a friend request, had liked many of my old posts, and had sent me many messages. Immediately I was concerned when I saw that the individual messaging me had a Hindu name, but I never could have imagined what I saw when I opened his first message. The man had sent me a video of himself from Bangladesh, surrounded by dozens of impoverished and hungry people holding bags of food, thanking me by name, Michael, for my generous donation. A big round of applause for Michael. At this point, I've leapt out of my bed and I'm pacing. Part of me wants to scream, part of me wants to crack up laughing. I start swiping through the man's messages, and it is picture after picture after picture of poor Bangladeshis thanking me for my kind donation. Literally hundreds of photos of frail, elderly, disabled, and malnourished individuals holding signs with my name. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. I've uploaded a portion of the video and a few photos for you guys to see here. Needless to say, I couldn't live with myself just donating $150 after seeing how the community responded to the $15,000. I decided the least I could do was to add a zero, and so I donated $1,500 once the original donation was refunded. The charity's host was incredibly gracious and understanding, and he explained to me that $1,500 goes very far in Bangladesh for urgent food relief. Here's the charity's new GoFundMe link if you want to check it out. Ultimately, I think the whole experience was a win-win. I helped a great cause, and I got a funny story out of it. Yeah, good compromise there for OP. Let's look at the comments. Best post on here in ages. Thank you for the great story and for helping out these folks. $1,500 is still very generous. Man, this got me good. I hope you didn't get behind on bills or anything after this mix-up. Holy crap, man. That put a pit in my stomach just reading. I can't imagine how you felt. Lol, crap happens. Glad your neighbour was understanding and good for you for going the extra mile. Watch this post blow up and a crap ton of Redditors donate. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I have a feeling that's about to happen. Let's look at the update. Last week I posted one of my life's most embarrassing stories on Today I F'd Up about the typo that caused me to donate $15,041 to a Bangladesh charity instead of the $150 donation I intended. At the time of my Reddit post, the charity's latest campaign had approximately $12,500 from 26 total donations. My neighbour, the organiser of the charity, had told me the charity was running on fumes and looking to cancel some of its programs. Of course, I had hoped some Redditors might read my story and decide to help the charity, but I never could have expected the overwhelming reaction, nor the incredible generosity of the Reddit community. Watch this post blow up and a crap ton of Redditors donate was one of the first comments the post received on Reddit, and that is exactly what happened. Over Memorial Day weekend, the charity raised over $55,000 from over 2,100 new donations. On Saturday, I had to explain Reddit to my 77-year-old neighbour and to the charity's team leader in Bangladesh. He called it Rebbit, as you can see in my pics. They were absolutely blown away by the reaction. Truly, they view it as a miracle. I received the following message from my neighbour. Without a doubt, this is the biggest wave of support to arrive since we started. Doors that were closed can now be opened. Plans that were parked can now be put in motion. There is much we can now accomplish, all due to your idea to post in a funny way on what happened a while ago. Abundant resources require an equal level of responsibility. No less, I am committed to see that these funds are applied carefully and continue to make a difference to those who need it the most. Sometimes things just seem to work out for a reason. One Redditor donor commented, "Michael may have screwed up his donation, but hopefully his 'Today I effed up' on Reddit has fixed that somewhat. Thanks to Reddit, the Bangladesh community will receive roughly 4 times the amount of the original donation I had refunded." Wow, there you go guys, what a great story. I think I might have to go and donate now. Let me know what you guys think about that one. We'll go to our next story. Alright, we're on Am I the A-hole now. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for calling my sister-in-law and brother tramps after my sister-in-law insulted both me and my wife? My wife and I are staying with my parents, grandma, older brother, brother-in-law, their kids, younger brother, sister-in-law, and their kids at a beach house we rented for 2 weeks. I should preface this by saying that frankly, I do not get along with my younger brother, Todd, and I do not like my sister-in-law, Anne. That said, I am civil with them, and while I don't see them often, I do love my niece and nephews. Yesterday, my wife, Alice, and I were babysitting all of our nieces and nephews, while my grandma napped and everyone else went to see a movie. Now, once we got here, Alice and I had baked cookies for everyone to eat. We'd baked them later in the evening, and Anne, who works as a personal trainer, told her kids that they couldn't have any. The kids were upset, of course, especially since their cousins were allowed cookies, but Anne was insistent that they weren't allowed any at the time. She and Todd are generally quite strict with the kids' diets. None of them have any food allergies, and to my recollection they've only been allowed a popsicle once this past week. While everyone was out, one of the kids asked Alice if they could have cookies, and so we gave them all some cookies to enjoy. When everyone came home, Anne asked the kids what they did, and one of them mentioned that we gave them cookies. She then told them to play on the beach, where they were watched by my older brother and brother-in-law, and were joined by their cousins. Anne then proceeded to get very mad. She started off just saying that we shouldn't have given them cookies because she hadn't said that they could have them. Alice started to apologize and said we just wanted to let them enjoy their vacation, but Anne interrupted her and told her that she didn't trust a fat ass with her kids' health. Now, I was obviously livid, and I told her to shut the F up. The argument spiraled from there, and at one point Anne said she should never have trusted 2 psychos with her kids. Alice and I met in a therapy group 11 years ago, after we were discharged from the hospital for mental health concerns, though I'd like to emphasize we weren't there for anything that would ever even imply that would put anyone else in danger. I then told her that it was rich for 2 tramps to think that they could ever raise morally healthy kids. Anne was originally Todd's best friend's wife, but the two had an affair, during which their oldest child was conceived. Then Anne and her husband had what sounds like a rather messy divorce. She then started crying and left, and our family is a bit divided over this. I realized that I was very harsh, but so was she, and I do not think it was her place to dish out what she couldn't take. So, am I the a-hole? Geez, it's all a bit messy here, isn't it? Let's look at the comments. Everyone sucks here. You knew the kids couldn't have cookies, so you deliberately stepped all over their boundaries. Anne attacked you personally, which is out of bounds, and you responded with your own immature insults. But let's face it, this started with you not respecting their boundary as parents. Everyone sucks here. Obviously Anna for starting the insults. You and your wife more so for feeding her kid something you know she said not to. She was half right. You proved that she can't trust you with her kids. Yes, it was just a cookie. This time. But now she knows that if you feel like it, you'll go against her rules for her kids. Everyone sucks here. I think Anne more than you, but you're all vicious to each other. She's likely way too strict with the kids, and you knowing they couldn't have cookies, you really shouldn't have. But her reaction was over the top and it just escalated from there. I guess I'm in the vast minority, but I would say not the a-hole. Anne went way too low over a couple cookies. I get most people's point that a parent gets to decide what their children eat, but I've seen too many people who are health nuts force that lifestyle on their children to an abusive degree, and if the reaction to a few cookies is to call people fat asses, It sounds like the kids are probably getting that same reaction from her at home if they indulge in the occasional sweet. Also, if you're gonna throw stones from your glass house, be ready for retaliation. If a couple cookies on vacation is a wild and awful violation of trust, then this lady needs to go to therapy. Yeah, I think I'm more leaning towards everyone sucks here, like the other comments, but I find myself agreeing with that comment as well to a certain degree. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, same subreddit. This one was written by Sensitive Chair, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my son that if he won't do crap for us, we won't do stuff for him, and took back the money I gave him for a trip?" My son, Gabe, 19, is back for the summer after his first year at college. Now before college he was such a thoughtful kid. This issue started this summer. He came back and won't do a favour for anyone. At college he rarely called, which was expected. He was busy and doing his work. He came back, and doing anyone any favours is impossible. "Can you close the door?" His answer is, "Not my door." "It's raining, I'm at work, can you make sure the dog is in?" Came home and the dog was soaked since he didn't let him in. It's for everything. Father's Day he forgot even though his sister and I reminded him, and he didn't even show up for cake. That made my husband really sad. My breaking point was I got called into work last night for an emergency. Husband is gone for the week and my daughter was asleep. All I asked is for him to put the leftovers away since I need to leave ASAP. It was so simple, yet when I came back home at 3 AM they were still out. I went to his room. He was still up and we got into an argument. If he can't do anything for this family, we won't do crap for him. I then took back the money I gave him for a trip and told him to pay for it himself. He called me a jerk and my daughter is happy with the outcome. My mother called it extreme, even though we have talked about this multiple times. Yes, I've tried to talk to him about this. It's like a brick wall. So if something happened at college, he's not telling me. Yeah, definitely not the a-hole for me. This son sounds pretty lazy and entitled, and it sounds like he's just kind of expecting a free ride when he comes back home for holidays or whatever. Unless something like significant happened at college, then there's really no excuse for this kind of behaviour. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about that one. My best friend thought that shoving her breast down my daughter's throat to calm her down was completely okay. Basically what the title says. I have a daughter of 10 months. Me, 30 female, and my best friend, 31 female, have always been super close, and she helped a lot during my pregnancy and after childbirth, so it always came naturally to me to ask for her help, till she became some kind of nanny for my daughter when needed. She's always been very eager and happy to help, since she has no children of her own. She had a miscarriage in the past and stopped trying afterwards. So we were at a mutual friend's wedding yesterday, and I was holding my daughter for quite some time, since she hates strollers. My best friend came to me and offered to take her for a while, so that I could take a break and go chat with some friends. I agreed, and wholeheartedly thanked her. After 20 minutes or so, I come back to where we were, and she wasn't there. So I start looking for her in the garden, and she was literally nowhere to be found. Finally, after another 10 minutes, I managed to find her, and I see her talking to some people, while holding my baby with her boob shoved down my daughter's throat. I literally tried my best to keep my composure and not to scream, so I went to her and said that we needed to talk. After reaching a quiet place, I yelled what the F was wrong with her and why was she nursing my daughter. She looked at me in disbelief, and she replied that she understood that it was the best way to calm my daughter and that there's nothing wrong about it, adding that she could very well be her daughter. What the F? I was shocked, but we couldn't keep up the conversation because we needed to get back inside for the wedding cake. I told her that we would have continued the discussion later on. We never did, but we agreed to meet today in a couple of hours. Honestly, I'm so effing mad. What the F? Why did she have to do it? I don't even freaking know what to tell her without raging at her. It's been nearly a day, and this thought never left my mind, not even for a second. How can she say that there was nothing wrong with it? I feel like she violated my daughter, and she gave literally 0 Fs about it. I'm trying to arrange my thoughts before talking to her. I hope I don't end up hitting her. I'm nearly bursting out. Edit, 5 hours later. So we met and talked. I let her talk first. She explained that my daughter was restless while she was talking to a couple of women, and they said that maybe she was hungry, and it was fine for them to keep talking while she was breastfeeding, so she just did. WTF? I went straight to the point.
What she did was completely effed up. No excuses. She told me that she didn't agree and that she did nothing wrong. She said that she tried everything in the past and nothing worked except for her breasts, which were the only things that calmed her down, so she just did what she'd always done. I literally couldn't believe it. I asked her what was wrong with her for doing such a thing behind my back, and why the F among all things she thought that she could dry nurse my daughter. She replied back saying that she was just doing what she thought was best for the baby and doing what my daughter wanted, adding that she didn't think she needed to inform me of such thing, since she's quite a second mother to her. I was losing it, but she continued. She added that she wasn't dry nursing her. Since a while ago, after using pumps and dry nursing her, she started to lactate a little, saying that the supply was still low, but that in a while I could leave breastfeeding to her and stop doing it and worrying about it. I was livid, but she didn't even realize. She was completely clueless, like absorbed in her own world, like not even realizing that what she did was wrong. So I stood up from the table and told her that she was completely insane and that she was creeping me out. I told her that she wasn't allowed near my daughter anymore and to never contact me again, or I would report everything to the police. She started crying, saying that I couldn't cut her off from her own daughter's life. So I lost it and shouted at her that it's not her goddamn baby, but it was me who popped her out. It was me who was pregnant for 9 months, and she was my daughter and not hers, and left. I'm just completely shocked. I don't even think shocked can completely describe what I'm feeling now. I received a couple of texts from her begging to reconsider it and asking to see my daughter. I told her to stop contacting me and blocked her. If I receive another message or call or anything like that, I will report everything to the police. I'm just disgusted. She was my best friend. Why did she do something like this? I'm completely speechless. I'm editing this post again if something happens, but I just hope nothing is going to happen, honestly. I just want to puke. Okay, let's look at the comments. I am more concerned with this statement that your daughter could be hers. She is sounding a lot like someone who could kidnap your baby. Might be a good idea to get some advice from law enforcement on this one, just in an effort to prevent that from happening. I'd be livid as well. Wet nurses have been around for centuries and are still common in certain cultures, so that, while it wouldn't be my preference, I could understand. This is something else completely though. She's not lactating, and she never discussed it with you. I can't understand why she didn't try a bottle or a pacifier. Since she said that she understood it was the best way to calm her, I imagine this isn't the first time she's done it. Yeah, wow, this lady sounds crazy. I imagine she's probably suffering, depression or something or other from, her miscarriages and her past. So she probably needs help. But yeah, what she did to that kid is completely unacceptable. Without the permission of the parent, please. Okay, let's go to the update. After trying for most of the last evening to contact me on social medias, this morning she showed up at my front door. I told her that she needed to leave, because I didn't want to call the police on her. She started crying, babbling why I was treating her this way and why I was keeping her away from my daughter since she did nothing wrong. I told her that everything she did was wrong, because she did all of this behind my back. She can't be her mother, and she can't take over as the only one breastfeeding. It was delusional even thinking something like this. She responded saying that my daughter needed her breasts and that her milk will be surely far better than mine for the baby. If this wasn't enough, she said that she was worried because my breasts are too small to feed her properly and to please stop being selfish and start thinking what's really better for my daughter, concluding saying that she was fine with me breastfeeding her until she reached a sufficient supply, but then I should leave the responsibility to her if I wanted my daughter to grow healthy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I wasn't even mad. I couldn't believe it was my best friend, the one who was saying such BS. She was talking really loud, and I guess my daughter heard that because she started crying, and she took it as a sign that my daughter was calling for her. WTF? She only left when I was dialing the police, saying that I shouldn't treat her like this, and that she's only doing what's best for my daughter. I'm done. I can't take this crap anymore. I contacted a mutual friend, and I told her everything, emphasizing that she needs help. She agreed to talk to her and see what's going on. In the meanwhile, I'll go to the police and try to file for a restraining order, and I'll talk to a pediatrician as soon as possible. I can't live peacefully like this, and I'm starting to get worried for my daughter. Many thanks to each one who showed support and offered advice, and I'll update again if something comes up. Now for some relevant comments. Can you contact her parents? OP replies, unfortunately, I don't know her parents, and I don't know how to get in touch with her ex-husband. I asked the mutual friend if she perhaps knows something more. Is she even lactating, or is that a delusion as well? OP says, I honestly don't know. Just the thought of her inducing lactation using my daughter makes me shiver, but my daughter gets very frustrated when she gets no milk immediately from sucking, at least with me, so I don't really know what to think. Edit. Thinking about it, I do think that her breasts have gotten bigger, since I saw her nearly every day. I don't know if inducing lactation causes breasts to grow just like pregnancy, or if I just made a blunder. About the horrible smaller breasts comment, Opie says, it was so uncalled for and just plain stupid. I couldn't believe she had said something like that since she has always been very smart. Yes, she's embarrassingly busty, but she never bragged about them, not even once. And being busty has nothing to do with breastfeeding. I never had issues feeding my baby. I really have no idea where this thing came from. It doesn't seem like something she would say, like all the rest of it. And for the record, I don't regard mine as small. In fact, I think they're too big. Plans. I'm indeed considering staying at a hotel for the time being. I'm trying to organise everything. She has a copy of the house keys, and I don't think I can change the locks swiftly. How much about you and your codes, infos and locks does she know? Opie replies, she's been my best friend for more than 20 years, and she's been with me nearly every day before and after childbirth. If she doesn't know everything, she knows a good 99% of that everything. Why wouldn't you know how to contact her parents or ex-husband after knowing her for 20 years? Opie replies, I never wrote about not knowing her ex-husband. I don't know where you read that. I do know her ex-husband, but since the divorce I never spoke to him, nor have means to contact him. I asked the mutual friend if she knows something more, perhaps his address or telephone number, since I can't find him on social medias. Regarding her parents, I don't know them so well. When we were younger, she had a live-in nanny, and she's the only person related to her that I knew personally, since she was the one who took her to school or to the playground where we met to play in the past. I only met her parents once, but we never spoke. From what she told me, she always had a strained relationship with her parents because they were always busy working, but it was a delicate topic, so we never talked much about it. I could try contacting the nanny, but I should try to find her on social medias. Okay, now on to the next update. So, I came back home this morning after spending the night at a nearby hotel. I didn't feel safe staying alone in my house, since she had a copy of the keys. Even if I have a surveillance system, I didn't want to take the risk. The first thing I did when I came back was call an emergency locksmith, explain the situation, and they arrived and did the job swiftly. I felt so much safer knowing that she can't get in anymore. I checked the house, but it was exactly as I left it yesterday, and after checking the surveillance tapes, I was sure she didn't pay me a visit. I informed my close neighbours about what happened, and they were very understanding and helpful. I then met up with the mutual friend, and she updated me on the talk she had with her. She told me that she visited her at home this morning because she wanted to talk to her face to face since she thought I was a little bit overreacting. Well, she went, my best friend greeted her, and they started chatting a little before she invited her in. So far so good. Until they sat down, and my best friend asked her if they could keep talking while she pumped because she needed to get her supply running. Our mutual friend played dumb, saying that it wasn't a problem, but she asked why she needed to pump if she doesn't have children. She replied back saying that she indeed has a daughter, and that she was surprised that I didn't tell the mutual friend about it. She then pointed out that it was my daughter, and that even if she didn't give birth to her, she still considers her as her baby too, and that she needed mama's, referring to her, milk to grow healthy. She kept going, saying that she had no choice but pumping because I was being sassy and inconsiderate, and I wasn't letting her breastfeed our baby, but that she couldn't be inconsiderate like I was, and she needed to get her supply to a sufficient level, but that she was sure that I would change my mind in no time, since I'm not stupid, and I know that her breasts are better for our daughter. She told me that she couldn't believe what she was hearing, and that she couldn't believe that all of this was true. But what shocked her the most was the fact that she was indeed lactating. She wasn't producing much, but she was indeed pumping breast milk. She tried to talk to her, but it wasn't no use. She just wasn't listening. And after a while of trying, she just said that there was nothing wrong in what she was doing and that she was being a good mother. And after that, she asked her to leave because she needed to relax while pumping. Unfortunately, she forgot about asking for the keys of my house, but fortunately I was able to change the locks this morning. I honestly wasn't surprised hearing all of that, but still it was very, very depressing. She was completely shocked, and she couldn't understand what happened, since apart from this, she seemed completely normal. I then asked her to accompany me to the police, and unfortunately there are no extremes yet to file for a restraining order, not even a temporary one. According to what they told me, where I live, solid proof of harassment, stalking, etc. need to be presented, and the surveillance tapes and texts, which are the only things I have, don't show any harassment or clear evidence that she's stalking me. So the only thing I could do was file a formal complaint of what happened, and did that. They told me that they'll keep an eye on the situation, and they'll check my neighbourhood more frequently to be sure nothing happens. And that's it for now. The mutual friend will stay at my house for a couple of days to help me recover from what happened, also to wait for my parents to arrive. Unfortunately, she doesn't know her parents, but she found a way to contact her ex-husband, and I'll contact him tomorrow to ask for help. It's been a while and I hope he's willing to. I also booked an appointment with the paediatrician, and I'll get my daughter checked next week. I will stop making updates for a while. I need to get my crap together, plan what to do next, and take care of my daughter. Fortunately enough, my parents are coming to help me, and I'm really, really relieved. I don't think I can keep facing this situation alone. People of Reddit, thank you very much, really. You gave me wonderful advice and support, and it really helped. I will update you after the situation settles down a bit, and I really hope it does. Thanks again, and bye for now. Okay folks, so that's the end of that story for now. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. Honestly, yeah, sounds like a stressful situation for all parties. I mean, the friend clearly has some problems and most likely some issues that she's still dealing with from her miscarriage. But yeah, there's no excuse for that sort of behaviour. And then the way she was talking to the other friend, she just sounds delusional. Like, how can you possibly justify that? And how can someone twist the truth in their head enough that they'll actually believe that they're the mother of a daughter that they never had? It's just madness how some people work. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about that one, and we'll jump to our next story. Okay, this next one was written on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Party Woodpecker, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister to pound sand and that she doesn't know anything? My wife gave birth a month ago. His name is Colby, and he's perfect. My wife and I are obviously tired, but very fulfilled, and loving every moment of parenthood. However, my wife does get a bit ticked whenever my sister contacts us or comes by to see the baby. It's only my sister, no one else. When I ask my wife about it, she just says she can't stand her. Weird, because she didn't mind my sister before, but now even hearing my sister's voice or seeing her car in the driveway sets my wife right sideways. Up until today, I had no idea why. So my sister shows up here earlier, and as I said, it sets my wife off. She goes in the bedroom with our son. Now my wife is very non-confrontational. The only time she ever says anything is when she's pushed well beyond her breaking point. Well, my sister starts just talking to me like normal or whatever, and didn't even mention my wife or Colby. I go to the restroom maybe 20 minutes later, and when I return, I hear my wife becoming snappy. My sister was now in my bedroom, and as I approached the door, I hear my sister say, "You need help, Clara, just let me help you." Now I have no idea what's going on at this point, so I walk in and ask what the F is going on because my wife's face is beet red. Well, my wife puts Colby in his crib, pushes us out of the room, and shuts the door, and this is when she unleashes. She said something to the effect of, "Your frickin' sister seems to think that I have PPD. Your frickin' sister seems to think that I need to hand the baby over to her and go check myself into the hospital because apparently she knows what PPD feels like, even though she's never frickin' carried a child or given birth." My sister is infertile and adopted my niece 13 years ago. My sister starts crying, saying she can see the signs and is just trying to help. Starts telling me to open my eyes. My wife does not show signs of PPD. She's literally so overjoyed with being a mum. So I told her to pound sand and that she doesn't know anything and to get out and never return, and then, in the heat of the moment, said she was no longer allowed around our son because I don't trust her to not kidnap him. Harsh word vomit. She leaves, crisis diverted, all goes back to normal. But my mum called flipping out because of how we treated my sister and made out like she was less of a mum because she adopted. Wow, surely this is 100% not the a-hole. Like, what the hell is the sister thinking? It's like she's trying to create this false problem that doesn't even exist with the wife. Let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister needs help. I wouldn't trust her around the baby either. Not the a-hole. Even if your wife did have PPD, you aren't dead and would be the obvious caregiver for the child while your wife got treatment. Your sister is stirring up crap. You are right to cut off contact. Not the a-hole. I get the possibility of PPD, but sister goes straight to hand the baby over and check yourself into a hospital. Based on what exactly? Yeah, I agree 100% with these comments. Sister is crazy. What do you guys think about this one? Have you been in a similar situation? Gee, I hope not. Either way, let me know. We'll go to our next story. Alright, we're going to do another one from Am I the A-hole? This one was written by Small Raspberry, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for making my son clean up after his sister in the bathroom? I'm 40s female and have 2 children, Dax, male 12, and Mia, female 14. My kids don't get along super well. Dax thinks pranks are really funny, I guess like every 12-year-old boy, and he annoys Mia with them a lot. It's something my husband and I have been working on as it's the source of many fights between them. Dax gets a lot of prank ideas from YouTube and TikTok, and will often recreate what he sees. Most of them are harmless, something like a fake spider in her food, etc., but this time I think he went too far. Dax thought it would be funny to put saran wrap over the toilet before my daughter went to the bathroom. He said he got the idea from online. I don't know if this is a thing, but it's a terrible prank. Basically, he put plastic wrap under the toilet seat, so if someone sits on it, well, pretty much it makes a mess instead of going in the bowl. Yeah, I know, ew. So he does this right before Mia goes into the bathroom to pee. When she gets in there, she sits on the seat like normal, pees, and since there's plastic wrap over the hole, her pee collects on it and gets everywhere, all around the ground on the toilet and on her. She comes to me crying. She's embarrassed because she's a teenage girl and this is disgusting. I told Mia to shower and not to worry about the mess. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I go to my son and yell at him for what he did. I tell him that's not an appropriate prank and he's old enough to know that's not okay. And then I made him clean it up. He started crying, saying it's unfair I made him clean his sister's pee. It's gross and he's going to be sick, he says. It's from her body, so she should clean it. But it was all his fault and literally his mess to deal with. I don't know why I should humiliate my daughter further, or why I should have to clean it. And biggest thing, he needs to learn. I told him the mess was his fault, and he should think about the repercussions of his actions next time, because this is what his prank caused. And then I stood in the doorway and watched as I made him clean all the urine off the floor and toilet. I think it was an appropriate punishment considering it's really just the natural consequence of what he did, and it doubles as a general lesson in how to clean a toilet, which he has to learn at some point anyway. Well, my husband disagrees. This all happened while he was at work, and after he got home, Dax complained to him. He told me I was overly harsh on our son and put him in danger by exposing him to germs, but I gave him the same gloves I use when I have to wash the toilet, and it's not like he was unsupervised. But my husband is mad at me and told me I went too far, and that's bad parenting. Of course my son is mad at me too, but my daughter is on my side. Am I the a-hole? Am I a bad mum? Yeah, no, definitely not the a-hole. This is good parenting, to be honest. Sure, it's a pretty horrible punishment, but yeah, he caused it. He should be the one to fix it. And the best thing about it is he'll remember it forever and he'll never do it again. What do you guys think about this one? Let me know in the comments.
Am I the a-hole? My dad got a tattoo in the style of our matching tattoo with his new family, and now I want to get mine covered. My father, 41 male, and my mother, 40 female, divorced 3 years ago. I live with my mother. My father remarried a year ago. His wife has 2 children, 18 female, 15 male. Me, 18 female, and my dad got a matching tattoo 2 years ago. It was a simple outline tattoo of a photo of us. After my dad got married, things started to get a bit more distant between us because he started to spend more time with his new family. Besides that, I think he doesn't want to see me around them. I don't know why. After all, I've never treated his wife or stepchildren bad. Yesterday, he refused to meet me on a weekend when we were supposed to spend time together, saying he was unavailable, and he reposted a story of him hanging out with his new family. That while looking at the photo, I saw that he got a new tattoo on his arm. It was an outline tattoo of a photo of him with his new family, just like the tattoo he got with me. Now, I know that millions of people have these tattoos and it's not my original design. Still, I'm disappointed that he got a tattoo with his new family in the same style as ours, because I always thought that tattoo was special between us. Now I'm thinking of getting it covered or removed. I called my dad in the evening and asked him why he was hanging out with his family instead of meeting me. He said they planned it earlier, which doesn't make sense because it was agreed in court after the divorce that I could spend time with my dad every weekend. So, we planned it earlier is a pretty bullcrap excuse. He also knows that I'm totally okay with spending time with his family. When I told him that, he said, "It's not that simple." I guess I'm too dumb to understand complicated things because he doesn't even try to explain it, lol. Then I asked him why he got his new tattoo in the same style as ours. He said he didn't think it would be a problem for me. I told him, "You broke something special between us. How can you not realize that? I think I'm going to get my tattoo covered. You could do the same." In result, he thinks I'm overreacting and I shouldn't be so selfish. My mum says what my dad did wasn't such a bad thing. She thinks we should sit down and talk. I'm not sure. Am I the a-hole? I mean, obviously Opie's feelings are justified here. Let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. Getting a tattoo in the same style could have been a cool idea if he'd talked to you first. That he didn't, then appeared to avoid you to hide it, shows that he knows it was crappy. Even if that wasn't the case, it's your body and you're allowed to tattoo whatever you want on it, including covering up a previous tattoo. But that also means you don't get to ask him to cover up his. You can hate it and tell him so, but you can't demand he change it. Not the a-hole. If your dad won't explain things to you, then he can't be surprised when you form your own conclusions. As for the tattoo, it's your body. I know I wouldn't be happy having a tattoo that made me feel bad. That being said, it might be worth seeing if you can sit down with your dad and your mum to see if you can get some clarity on his troubling behaviour, to see if that changes how you feel about the tattoo cover-up. I'm mostly thinking about the time and the cost and making sure you're very sure it's the right thing before spending the money on it. Why don't you get some tattoo covering makeup and just cover it up for a few weeks or months till you have a good chance to think it over. You can always pay big money and go through a painful removal process later, and in the meantime, you can just cover it up. Not the a-hole for thinking about it. You feel ignored and pushed aside. Let's see how much of a pattern this becomes. One commenter asks, "How did you get a tattoo at 16? And isn't the mandatory visit court order not in place anymore?" Opie replies, "Not all tattoo artists are very law-abiding. I turned 18 5 months ago, and of course the court order is no longer in force. This was our routine for 3 years. We didn't break it as soon as I became an adult, like, okay, bye. I just assumed that we hung out together on the weekends, unless I was told otherwise." More on how Opie feels and what they did in the past. "I never pushed him to meet every weekend for 3 years. When one of us had a reason, we didn't meet anyway or met another day. Still, if he's bored with this routine, I think he needs to tell me straight. Because it's heartbreaking when he just says he's busy and hangs out with his family, and then just tells me it's not that simple. And no, he didn't take much action to make up for the less attention he gave me after the marriage. There is no problem between him and my mum right now. They don't talk unless it's necessary, so I don't think he's moving away because of mum. It's also the saddest thing for me that he's enjoying life to the fullest now that I'm of legal age. Maybe I'm speaking emotionally, but it means that I'm a kind of prison for him. I don't want to think that he's been spending time with me because he has to. I will talk to him. If he wants to move on to a new chapter of his life and give me less scene there, he must say it clearly. Thank you so much." Someone asks, "Have there been issues with the other 18-year-olds now in your dad's family? How about your new stepmom?" Opie says, "We haven't really spent enough time together to have an issue. His wife is generally kind to me, but I don't know if she thinks bad about me. Okay, on to the update. This morning we had breakfast together and had a long talk. It turned out that the problem all this time was my stepsister. He told me that she was struggling with the whole marriage. The reason he got the tattoo was to show her that he loves her as much as he loves me. He also said that she didn't feel at ease around me, which I was really surprised about. We hadn't fought once, and we hadn't even been together long enough to have any disagreements. That's why he didn't invite me that day. He wanted to be a good father figure in her life. Still, he said that I might get closer to my stepsister in time. Who knows when. He also said I can get my tattoo covered if I want, but he would never do that for his. For him, the tat still has the same special meaning. Honestly, it would really make me feel like an a-hole to get mine covered while he keeps his. I'm not sure what to do. Lastly, the hardest thing for me was finding out that they were moving to another state. His wife got a better paying job and he's going to start a business with a friend there. He told me that he'll be very busy with all the moving, but will spend as much time with me as possible until he moves. He also promised to visit me often after the move, which I don't think he'll be able to keep. I guess he's really moving into a part of his life where I'm not in it, and there's not much I can do about it. Thank you all. Okay, now straight on to the final update. Today my stepbrother replied to my story and we started talking. I told him about the latest things and he told me a lot of things I didn't know. He said that it's true his sister doesn't feel at ease around me, but she never said anything to my dad about not inviting me. In fact, her discomfort isn't so great that she couldn't stand to be in the same place with me. It was my stepmother who asked him not to invite me that day, and she came up with the whole idea of the tattoo. He said his mum doesn't like my mum at all. He's not sure if this is based on something or not. When I asked my mum about it, she said she never met that woman even once. I think her dislike for me comes from her baseless hatred for my mum, and my dad played along with her. Also, I didn't mention here, but my dad told me they're moving in November. My stepbrother told me they're moving next week, and that was the plan all along. He told me he's sorry for what happened to me, and only told me this because he thought I had to know the truth. He also asked me not to let his mum know about this conversation. My dad wasn't really like that. He was a good man. I mean, all those lies, cutting me out of his life, that's not like him. I don't understand why he turned into such a person, but I really don't want to talk to him once more to get it. He's moving away next week anyway. I told my mum about this and asked her to call my dad, tell him that I would never see him again. My mother passed this on to him without mentioning the conversation. I also blocked my dad from everywhere. Soon I will get the tattoo covered. Love you. Oh damn, and everything was looking so up in that last update. And then Opie goes and drops this on us. Oh well, looks like she's getting the tattoo removed. But it was good that the stepbrother reached out. At least someone in the family is reasonable. Alright, give me your thoughts about that one and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one's from the same subreddit. It was written by user PositiveU and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my pregnant sister-in-law and telling my husband to choose me or her? See, I know the title sounds wrong, but please hear me out. I'm currently typing this all up while my husband's entire family is sitting downstairs. So, I, 29 female, have been married to my husband for 8 years. About 2 months ago, I had my third miscarriage, 31 weeks. I won't be talking about it because it makes me feel so depressed, but you'll need to remember this. About 4 months ago, my sister-in-law, 20, came crying at our doorstep telling us she's pregnant and her boyfriend didn't want anything to do with the pregnancy and had nowhere to go. My husband and I openly took her in. We welcomed her into our home with open arms. For the first few weeks it was really hard for her, understandably. I sat with her for hours, holding her when she cried, binging our favourite TV shows, eating so much ice cream we quite literally fell into a coma. It was really bonding for us, so I thought. Here's where it starts going downhill. I take pride in my neat, clean home. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, did not. She would leave her clothes all around the house, leave her dirty dishes wherever, even went as far as leaving her sex toys on our living room table. I tried to talk to her directly before I talked to my husband. She immediately started crying and told me she'll try to be cleaner. I hugged her, told her it was okay, but this is a clear boundary for me. She told me it wouldn't happen again, but it only got worse. She told me I was expected to do her laundry, dishes, and clean her room daily because she's the pregnant one. Well, I do understand how hard it is being pregnant. I just couldn't allow feeling like a maid in my own home. Disclaimer, I bought this house, not my husband. It was all me. Not to mention my recent loss of my child. So I told my husband, but what he told me shocked me. His exact words were, "Honey, she's going through a lot right now. We should really be helping her out. Plus, it might make you feel better to take care of someone who's pregnant." I was ticked to say the least. Make me feel better? She's going through a lot? We need to help her? Letting her stay with us wasn't enough? While I don't want to invalidate her pain, my husband and I were also going through our own problems. Anyways, we moved on. I did my best to maintain work and the household chores. My husband works 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, so he isn't around to help much. I work full-time from home, so it's been super stressful. When I even try to ask for help from my sister-in-law, she always makes an excuse, even if she's just watching TV. The one thing that pushed me over the edge was I went out to buy my one food that I've actually enjoyed eating after my miscarriage. I wrote my name on it and directly asked my sister-in-law to not eat it. Well, I went to go to my fridge to get it, and you'll never guess, she frickin' ate it. Now you may think it's just food. I buy all the groceries, basically pay all the bills. I don't mind people having some of my food, but the one thing I ask to not be touched gets touched. I told my husband, and of course he rubbed it in my face that she's pregnant. I need to be less selfish, and life is all about sacrifices. I was so upset I told him I felt like him and her were the horrible roommates people talk about on Reddit. He didn't take that well, lol. Which leads us to my title. My sister-in-law planned a random baby shower party thing at my house. I personally didn't know if I could even be home when this was happening. I felt so hurt that she wouldn't talk to me knowing everything that has happened, and that she would just invite random strangers into another person's home before asking. My husband urged me to go, told him it would permanently affect mine and her relationship, so I told him I'd go. About halfway through the party, my husband and sister-in-law announced that they wanted to show the nursery to everyone. I was confused. Nursery? She was staying that long? What room did she turn into a nursery? They told everyone to head upstairs. That's when it hit me. They were talking about my nursery, for my baby I just lost. A wave of emotions hit me when I saw everyone in my baby's nursery telling her what a good job they did setting it up. My setup, for my baby, that my body failed to give me. I just lost it. I started sobbing. Then that sadness turned into pure rage. I started yelling at my sister-in-law, telling her she's the foulest human for putting me through everything she has for the last few months, making me feel like I was a maid or an object for her convenience. Through choked-up tears, I turned to my husband, whose jaw was on the floor. I turned my head to see his entire family just staring at me. I lost it again, yelling. I looked at my sister-in-law, telling her, how dare she use my nursery for my baby? How dare she think she has the right? What she told me made me fall to my knees sobbing. It's not my fault you couldn't produce a child. Why let this go to waste? You're so selfish. My husband tried to pick me up off the floor, but I yelled again, standing to my knees, which were now shaking. I told him, pick. A dumbfounded look on his face. I yelled again, pick, me or her. He couldn't even muster up anything to say. I just looked at him. Pure betrayal. I pushed past the Crowder family and ran straight up here to type this out. Even if no one sees this, at least it's helped me let these emotions out. Now's the point where I ask, am I the jerk? Oh my god, I don't even know where to start on this one. Jesus Christ, what a mess. Let's look at the comments. You didn't have a miscarriage at 31 weeks. You had a stillbirth, and that's very hard to take. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. It's maybe time to reconsider your marriage. Your husband disrespected you and didn't take into consideration your feelings in your home. Tell your sister-in-law to take her belongings and get out of the house immediately. It's unacceptable behaviour. You deserve respect, and you're not a maid. You're a person with feelings, with traumas. You need to heal, and for that, you need her out, and maybe your husband for a moment. The time to think about what you want for your future. You must be broken, and it's so understandable. Please seek for help and therapy. I wish you the best in the future. Not the a-hole. They both need to leave immediately. I'm not joking. Your sister-in-law for obvious reasons. This was meant to be a temporary situation. Now she's laying claim to your house and your nursery? Girl isn't even doing the frickin' dishes. She needs to go. All those friends and family she invited to your house can take her in. Your husband? Does he realise that this isn't his baby? That it's not going to replace the child you lost? Letting his kid sister walk all over you because she's pregnant. Did he treat you like a delicate little flower during your pregnancies? If not, remind him of that fact on his way out. Is he expecting you to help raise or fund a sister-in-law's baby? Because she's young and deserves a life and all that BS? He literally stood there while she spouted all that crap to you after months of letting her treat you like crap and still didn't defend you. I'm furious on your behalf. Tell them both the free ride is over. Lock up the nursery so they can't take the stuff you paid for and give them notice to get the F out. I'm sorry for your loss. You deserve support and kindness, not this. Not the a-hole. First, call a locksmith and lock up the nursery before she and your soon-to-be ex steal the items. As your sister-in-law has been there for a while, you'll need to go through the courts to evict her. Stop doing her laundry. Tell her any of her junk left lying around will go into the trash and do it. Stop grocery shopping and cooking. Get just what you need for yourself. Most of all, get a lawyer and kick hubby to the curb as well. Yeah, I find it hard to disagree with the comments here. I mean, what they did was completely unacceptable. I mean, what do you guys think? Anyway, let's go to the update. Sorry for any typos or misspelled words. I'm not quite sure if this is the proper way to do an update, but hopefully everyone can see it. First, I just want to address a few comments. You can skip this part if you don't care. I know I had a stillborn. The only reason I say miscarriage is because that's what my obstetrician told me what was happening. Second off, some people have been saying this story is fake because of the way I described the argument. Falling to my knees, pure betrayal. Yes, I figured out I spelt it wrong. I can assure you it is not. I cannot make anyone believe me, but this is my life, so you can either think it's fake or not. Here's the update everyone's been asking for. Buckle up, it's a long one. After posting my story on Reddit, I sat on my bed, wiping my tears and telling myself I'll not take this disrespect. I walked downstairs, shutting my nursery door on the way. I was greeted with everyone comforting my sister-in-law. I kindly asked everyone besides my sister-in-law and husband to respectfully get the F out of my house. After all the dirty looks and shaming, it was just my husband, sister-in-law and myself. They sat themselves on the couch, not saying anything. I sat with them. The silence felt like forever. None of us had anything to say. I knew I'd have to start the conversation. I looked at my husband and said, "Did you decide?" He looked at me just staring. I asked again in a firm tone this time. He ended up mumbling some sort of insult and I couldn't really make out what he said. Something with the B word. I stood up and told them both to get out. Then they wanted to talk, telling me this is all a misunderstanding, they're sorry, blah blah blah. I grabbed a backpack from my shoe closet and told them to pack their crap. My sister-in-law told me I couldn't just make her leave, and I was a horrible person. I laughed in her face and told her this is my house and I can do whatever I wanted. My husband stood next to me and told her it was only for a little while. I turned to him and said, "Oh, you too, get out." He got all mad and told me we were a married couple and that this isn't how marriage works. I told him, no, it's not. Marriage is where two people support each other and not treat their wife like crap. They both ended up leaving after many insults towards me. Oh, but wait, it's not over. This morning, as I was getting ready for a Zoom meeting with a few other co-workers, when my husband showed up, I let him in, telling him to get whatever he needed and to go because I had to work. He started apologizing and telling me he wants to make it right. I told him I just need time away from him. Then he threw in my face, "Well, it's not my fault you lost our children. Maybe this would have never happened." My sister was right. You are selfish. I have never, ever made my husband feel like he cannot grieve with me over this. never made him feel less than because of his pain. I turned around and slapped him in the face. I never condone violence, and I'm very upset I would ever do that to another human, but I just couldn't deal with this. He took a step back and then threw all of my makeup on the floor, which I get, but then he started breaking all of my decor in my bathroom. I yelled at him to stop, and that I was sorry, but he just kept going, even going as far as punching a hole in my bathroom wall. It was like I was seeing all of his bottled up emotions from our children's death come out. But he went too far when he tried to grab me, yelling in my face. I kicked him off and told him to get the F out. He walked out of the bathroom, and I watched him break a few more items as he left. The second he left, I had a panic attack, looking at the mess he made, to even just seeing how much he hid his pain. I called my mother and told her everything that has been happening. I don't talk to my family much due to some past trauma with them. She told me she was on her way. The second she got here, I just broke down and she held me. Then she stood up and started taking pictures of everything he broke. I asked her what was she doing, and she turned to me and said, "We're suing this POS." I honestly didn't even argue. I was so hurt by everything my husband did to me. My mum packed up my computer and I grabbed a few outfits. My mum and I drove to a hotel and she insisted on staying with me. While I finished up work, my mum called a locksmith and my attorney. I'll be divorcing him as well. So, there it is. Here's the update everyone has been waiting for. I feel guilty for just giving up on my husband in 8 years of our marriage, but it's time for a divorce. I can't live like this, and neither can my husband. I wish I could say we moved on, forgave each other, and I got to see my sister-in-law have her baby, but that's not reality. If anything else happens, I'll let you all know. Thank you guys for the support and help with this situation. Alrighty guys, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, unfortunately you find with couples that go through something like a miscarriage or even a traumatic event that they tend to not last too long after the fact. It's almost like being with that person constantly reminds you of a traumatic event or something in your past, and I can't help but feel like that was the case here. Am I the a-hole for lying to my family about my daughter? I, 30 male, am in a relationship with my wife, 29, and we have been together for 8 years, but we grew up together and were friends from elementary. I also have 2 children, 4 female, who we'll call Chloe, and a baby boy, 5 months. Around 5.5 years ago, one of our best friends had passed away from cancer. We had known him since we were like 9, so this hit us both hard. During this time, we argued a lot and we spent time away from each other, but eventually figured things out and realized we were better together. Maybe 2 weeks after we got back together, she told me that during our time apart, she was with another man who happened to be someone who we were both friends with in high school, who we can call Jonah for the sake of the story. Now, it was a bit upsetting at first, but after some discussion, we were able to accept it and move on. Another 2 weeks or so passed by, and we found out she is pregnant. I know Ava isn't mine. I've known from the start and have accepted that fact. But I love her. She's my daughter, and nothing will change that. When I looked into my daughter's eyes for the first time, it was heartbreaking to see the face of a man that I considered my friend for all those years, but I didn't tell anyone, not even my wife, until Ava was 2 years old. When I confronted her about it, she admitted that was her fear, because Ava honestly looks like a carbon copy of Jonah. She asked if I wanted a paternity test, and I denied, because I really am scared I could lose my legal rights of my baby girl. The past 4 years, she's been my girl. I love her more than words can describe, and I got over that heartbreak so quickly. I love her and my son equally. Here's where the issues start. Ever since my son was born, my family have started to question my daughter's biology, as my son looks just like my wife and I, whereas my daughter looks nothing like either of us. My mum recently came up to me and said I need to do a paternity test for Ava, as I can't have my boy raising a baby that isn't his. This really upset me, but I kept my cool and just told my mum that Ava is my daughter. I never told her in the first place because she treats my sister's stepson like crap, and I don't want my girl to be treated like that. Well, my mum was committed and went to my wife and managed to trick her into telling the truth. She came back over to me and yelled at me for raising an illegitimate child. We left the situation fast, but my mum hasn't stopped texting me about how I lied for 4 years, and that my wife is a cheater. I explained to everyone after in a calm way that my wife didn't cheat and just went into a bit more depth. While my other family, besides my mum, don't care that she isn't mine, they're upset at me for keeping the information away for so long. But I personally think it was none of their business in the first place, as my own daughter doesn't even know. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I said Chloe at the top but continued to use my daughter's real name. I'm an idiot, but I still don't think it's enough to give away our family identity, so it's okay. Sorry about that, I'm new to Reddit. Edit 2. So no, Jonah has no idea about her. He's not safe. He has a child himself who I saw on his cousin's Facebook. Jonah blocked us after my wife and I got back together, but he lived in my town for another 3 years, so I heard news on him. Due to this sub's rules, I can't say what, but he's a very bad man from what I know, hence why our friendship broke. He did stuff which should have him away for life, but he isn't. He said stuff about children which absolutely deserves jail time for life. I fear for his child, but I'm not putting my daughter in a situation where she could be badly hurt. I tried to keep it low-key in my post and comments about him, but it's not possible to do that anymore, as I would just seem like a selfish a-hole if I don't explain. It's all for my daughter's safety. Let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. You are a good father. It's none of their business, but you and your wife need a plan on telling Ava while she's young and adaptable. If you don't tell her, one of your relatives will, and the fallout will be ugly. You need to prepare Ava now so none of it's a surprise to her. Best wishes to your family. Not the a-hole. If you both know her paternity and you accepted her as yours, she's yours. However, the suggestions for talking with a therapist on how to mitigate your mum's negative narrative is important. It's amazing what young kids can sense and how they internalize it. Protect her as much as possible from that. As for the sperm donor issue, please get some legal advice. It may seem like you would never find out if you don't say anything, but life has a way of screwing things up. Knowing how to best protect yourself and her legally could save you guys if something happens down the line. Legal counsel has to follow confidentiality laws so they wouldn't tell or force you to tell Jonah. Good luck, and keep focused on the love you have for that sweet girl. It will get you through this. Opie replies, Thank you for the kind advice. We definitely will be looking into therapy for our girl and also for us on how to deal with this, and we will look for legal advice for extra protection on our girl. Not the a-hole, and love is thicker than blood. She is your girl. Is there any way you could move from your area though, so there's no chance for your paths connecting with Jonah and your mum would have less access to your family? Opie says, We plan on moving anyway for personal reasons, but we definitely are considering moving further away. Okay, now the first update was posted on a separate subreddit and it's titled, My kid found out she isn't mine. She's 4, young. If you read my other post, you will see that she isn't biologically my daughter. She is my ex-best friend's. But I've loved her since day one. Nothing can change that. My family had an issue with this, but I cut them off. I know in my other post I said nobody else cared, but it turned into a bigger deal because of my mum. The only people I've kept in contact with is my sister, or one of them. She has always supported me, and ever since she found out about Ava's biology, she hasn't cared, and still loves my daughter the same as she loves my son. Thing is, my kids stayed the night. Halfway during my kids' time there, I get a text from my sister saying my mum is there. She showed up unexpectedly. My mum knows I don't want her around my kids, so I drive to collect my kids and thank my sister for telling me. When I get there, I find my sister angry and holding my sobbing daughter. My son is in my mother's lap. I leave without sparing a look at my mother apart from when I took my son from her. When we got home, my daughter was still crying. I picked her up and cuddled her super close and asked what happened. She looks at me in the eyes and says, Grandma says you're not my real daddy. I want you to be my real daddy. I don't want you to love baby brother more than me. I think at this point, lying would do her more harm in the future, so I sat her down and explained that I'm her real daddy because I love her and raised her. I just didn't help make her. She was confused and asked if I made her baby brother. I didn't lie and said yes. I also explained how I love them both equally. The fact I didn't make her doesn't change that. I hated seeing her little heart break, but lying more would have hurt her more. She clings to things, information. Now every night at bed she asks me, "Daddy, you still love me like you loved baby brother, right?" It's like she's scared I don't love her the same because my mum said I love my son more because he's mine. I love her just as much as I love him. I don't come on Reddit much, but I'm just really lost here. I know me telling her the truth would save her a lot of future trust issues and stuff, but it breaks me that she thinks I don't love her the same as the baby. My plan was to tell her when she's older, but she's at the age now where there is a chance she will remember this. Okay, now let's go to the last update. So we had some amazing suggestions, and I want to thank everyone who offered good advice for me and my little girl. We used the idea of Legos and building blocks. She has a favourite bunny, Teddy, that she sleeps with all the time. Literally all day every day we see that Teddy. So what I did was sat down on a mat and we had a daddy-daughter challenge thing. She got me to make a structure of her mummy and I got her to make one of her bunny. By the end of it, she made her bunny. So now I put up in front of her the Teddy bunny and the Lego bunny. I asked her which one she loved more, and she obviously said her Teddy bunny, and I asked her why. She said, because it's my bunny and I had it forever. So I made it a point to say that the bunny is like her. I've loved her forever, and that she's so special to me that I love her so much she couldn't be replaced, even though I didn't make her. Just because she didn't make the bunny doesn't mean she doesn't love it. I used a similar example, but in a different way to explain to her about her baby brother, by the way. It satisfied her and she is happy with that example. We use the term now, "I love you like you love bunny." Obviously it's a silly little term, but it helps her understand it so much better. Alrighty folks, and that's all for that story. A great ending there, and a great analogy to use for a little kid who probably wouldn't quite understand the weight of things if you were focusing on the realism of it all. Opie seems to have come to terms with everything, and the kid seems happy with the situation, at least for now. Give me your thoughts about that one down below, and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, this next one's a bit of a saga that kind of involves posts from several different subreddits, but we'll just go from the start. So the first one was posted on the Toxic Parents subreddit. It was written by user Wandering Aimlessly, and it's titled, Parents versus Grandparents. Long story short, my parents have a history of lying, gaslighting, manipulation, and such. Previously it was in regards to my little girl having celiac and them swearing to follow the diet they know well, but then sneaking her foods with gluten while lying to her they were gluten-free. We put them in time out for a month or two, then had a discussion with them. They were allowed to speak when asking questions for clarification. In that we set a lot of boundaries which would be a loss of grandparent privileges if they didn't follow. They keep all grandkids every Friday night because families should stick together and they want to see them and spend time with them. Plus it gives you guys a break. It does not give me a break. What I get is 3 to 4 hours of round trip driving to meet my parents halfway and then waiting for them to call only to have to drop things at the last second because they know we live further but won't give us an hour heads up like we've repeatedly asked for. So I can't plan anything on Saturdays. Then driving round trip for another 3+ hours, not to mention cost of gas, but they like spending time with their cousins so we do it. Also note that the older grandkids only go to see each other, so if my kids don't go, my sister's kids don't go, which means grandparents get 0 Friday night kids. Last night my mum called. My dad had a mild heart attack. He's fine, she said. His ejection fraction was 35% and he was in congestive heart failure. He's on meds that are dropping his blood pressure, but the doctors are working on it. Of course I wanted to know what hospital. Oh no, you don't understand. Dad is fine. This happened 4 to 6 months ago. They got the diagnosis 4 months ago. After talking to my mum and processing things, I realised something important. My dad picks my kids up on Fridays. My dad watched my little for a week at their insistence when I had to take the oldest to get medical care. He was alone with the 5-year-old and no other adults. I calmly clarify with my mum that they've known for months and are just now feeling the desire to tell me when he's been driving my children around all this time. Well, yes, and, quote, we knew you were going to do this. I informed her that I had a right to know because it's my responsibility to make an informed decision about what situations my children are put in. My mum blew it off. She likes to gaslight, telling me they would never put my children in danger or harm them. I asked her what would have happened had Dad had a heart attack and wrecked, killing my children. She then ended the conversation, saying if I was going to be like this, she couldn't talk to me. I wished her well and ended the call. Dear husband said a 3-month timeout and after that we could talk. He feels 3 months would teach them that we're serious. I'm so lost and I won't deny it. I'm ticked. I want to mourn my dad's failing health, but I'm too ticked off that they took my decisions away because they know better. It was a manipulation and it's more gaslighting. My parents both came from really bad homes. If someone had called CPS back then, they would have done an emergency order on my dad's parents. They tried so hard to not continue the abuse and did really well. This is part of why I'm torn. I know they are trying, but their trying isn't good enough anymore. Gee, I get they're your parents, but you really can't leave your children with people that you ultimately can't trust. Let's move on. The next part of this story is posted in Relationship Advice and it's titled, I caused my dad's heart attack. What do I do? Well, Mum didn't tell my dad that they were in time out from seeing the kids, so Dad kept asking if the girls were coming this weekend. Finally, I responded and said, per my convo with Mum last week, it was decided the girls will be staying home for the foreseeable future. Accusations started flying on his behalf, where he informed me he didn't want me to know because I caused his heart attack. I explained to him the 10 months of lying by omission is why the timeout is in place. I informed him I get to decide if he was healthy enough to drive my children after a heart attack and in CHF. If anyone in the family has a right to decide who drives their children around, it would be me, who is their mum. I also told him gaslighting would stop. I was the bigger person and didn't say, I didn't cause your heart failure because I didn't give you your genetics and I didn't give you the food you ate for the past 60 years. I didn't make you weigh 350 pounds or convince you to smoke for 30 years. I didn't make you sedentary for the past 5 years. Those are all on you. I'm even refusing to finish reading his message and the additional ones he sent. Seriously, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. He's denying they ever gave her gluten. He denies the convo where he admitted to it, or the multiple times we caught him and educated where he said he wouldn't. We think he's developing dementia, as he's had many head injuries over the years. Head-on collision at 55 miles an hour, falling off an oil rig 30 feet up. Not sure how he survived those. I've questioned my mum before anything happened in November about Dad forgetting things, and she denies it, saying you forget things when you're older. But yeah, they're in timeout and will no longer have unsupervised access to the kids. I'm just lost. I want a relationship with my parents. They are getting old. They will be dying soon. But this isn't healthy. Someone in the comments asks, how did you cause the heart attack? And could they both have early onset dementia? Opie replies, apparently the quote, cause of the heart attack was when I told them they were poisoning her and it could kill her. I totally get it. They may both be. I haven't seen signs in my mum. I see more signs of her denying things and gaslighting. Okay, and now onto the next update, which was posted in the Am I the A-hole subreddit, 5 weeks later. So here's the gist. My parents don't like rules and boundaries. They think they have the ultimate say in regards to my children. Example, during the pandemic, the doctors diagnosed our little one with celiac. My parents had been following a gluten-free diet for our oldest, so we didn't think anything of them transitioning the little one in their home to the diet. Long story short, we found out, by my dad's own admission, that the parents had been giving my little one gluten because, quote, I want them to be like me and to be sick. Eye roll. And, if you take a food away for a long time, that's how people develop allergies. Eye roll. We did a timeout so I could cool off. Then we had a come to Jesus meeting where I laid down the law. They agreed to the rules, and any deviation will result in no more unsupervised visits from the kids. Well, 10 months later, I found out my dad has had a heart attack and was in congestive heart failure, and they hid it for 10 months. Blah blah blah, he's fine. They are justified because I wouldn't have let the kids go with my dad, him driving, and they have a right to the kids. He also blamed me for his heart attack when it was really 2 to 3 McDonald's meals every day when he was working, 350 pounds and a sedentary lifestyle, constant sugar intake, and an overall unhealthy lifestyle that led to his congestive heart failure and heart attack. I reminded them one of the criteria during the gluten discussion was no lying. My dad said it wasn't a lie because they didn't tell us. I reminded him he raised me that leaving out important facts was lying by omission, and this fit that criteria. Then there was him saying I was bitter and trying to control them. I put us in another timeout because I needed a break, and that when the timeout was over, there would only be supervised visits. He still contacted me each week to see if he was coming to get the girls. I ignored because timeout. Finally, he mentions my nephew acting as if something is wrong, only to find out the nephew wants to know when my kids are coming back. Unexpectedly, in the middle of the timeout, my husband got a job and we're moving out of state. Ouch. This has nothing to do with my parents. The timing was an unfortunate consequence. Here is the catch. A few weeks before the pandemic started, my husband discussed a possible move out of the country for his job. That crumbled when the pandemic hit, obviously. However, leading up to it, my parents were throwing a fit. How could you do that to us? We have rights to see our grandchildren. Family comes first, no matter what. You are hurting the children by not letting them have regular access to their family. And my favourite, we can sue for grandparent rights. In our state, grandparents have no rights if the parents are married. I don't know about the state we're moving to. I don't want to deal with the accusations. I don't want to deal with the fight. I just want it done and over with. So, am I the a-hole for doing it by text and not a call? Geez, honestly, after all I've read, definitely not the a-hole. I would have been done with these people a long time ago. Geez, they just sound exhausting. One of the comments says, "Don't give them your new address or let them come visit." Opie replies, "It makes me feel bad, but I don't want them to come visit. I've never felt comfortable in the nice homes we've owned. They were all foreclosures and were so beautiful, but half the price. I've always felt the need to tell people who could never afford something nice. My husband said it was bragging, but I honestly never felt like I deserved it." Then my husband asked me, "What do you think your parents would say about the new house we picked out?" And I said, "Mum will tell me it's nice and that she deserves something like this, but my dad never loved her enough to give her something like this. Then my dad will tell me it's nice, but it's going to cause so many problems because my mum will want to do upgrades to their double wide, and that it will devolve into fights and him spending thousands of dollars for her to say it's not good enough. So thanks." And at that moment I realized, every home, the same reaction. They deserve it more. I don't deserve it. And I realized they are the reason I never feel like I deserve a nice home. Someone else asks, "Why do you still keep in contact with them?" Opie replies, "In all honesty, it wasn't until I joined Reddit and started reading things and saying, 'That's toxic as heck, get out. Let me tell you about the time my parents did XYZ. After a few of those responses, I started realizing what my parents were saying they were doing out of love and family obligation was actually toxic. I'm working on it. With each issue, I get closer and closer to the no contact. I'm hoping, however fruitless it might be, and I realize it may be a 5% chance of getting better, once I start laying down boundaries, that they'll start to realize their actions are inappropriate and what led to the issues." Yeah, it sounds like they need some real consequences before they have any real possibility of changing. Let's go to the final update, the next day. "Thank you all. I didn't expect the outpouring of love. I am learning how to deal with things. Once we are moved, I'll be finding a therapist. Thank you to those who sent me resources to help. I truly do appreciate them. We've decided to tell them after my husband has officially moved, or is about to walk out the door so he can be there. We will be hanging back a week or two, but he will establish a new residency for us the next day, so we'll be official new state residents before they can do anything. They can't get an address because, well, we don't have one yet, lol. We have always taken an approach of you deal with your family and I'll deal with mine. But you have helped me see. Once I tell them, he can deal with them, and I'm okay with that. So is he, to clarify. And I will not be embarrassed or ashamed of my new home. It will be beautiful. It will be a dream. It will be a place to make a ton of memories in, and they will not ruin it for me this time." Alrighty guys, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, fresh start for Opie it seems. And good to hear that Opie's willing to float that idea of maybe minimizing the contact with her parents for the time being. I think that's probably the healthiest thing to do here.
My daughter, 6, has been disappointed yet again. Her father got married today and she was so excited. He promised her a special role in the wedding and a special gift like a ring or bracelet or something, plus fun, dancing, cake, etc. I got her ready this morning and she was just so excited. I go to bring her to where he had previously told me to bring her, Well, plans changed, and he dropped the ball and forgot to tell me where to go. It was an extra 20-minute ride after the already 30-minute ride. We get there. I send her in with the ladies. Now she gets home far earlier than expected, is a crying heap, and she tells me she had no special role and didn't get to stand with them or help at all. She didn't get the special gift he promised. He didn't line up anyone to keep an eye on her. The person he told me was bringing her home didn't know that she was supposed to bring her. She didn't get to dance or have cake because the party got too drunk and rowdy too fast after the vows, so she was just brought home early by the person who wasn't aware they were her ride. I'm beyond upset for her. I'm just at such a loss on what to do for her to make her feel better. Now she won't get to see her dad for the next 2 weeks for his honeymoon, and she's already saying she misses him, then just looks sad. I just needed to vent this somewhere. She's been talking about this wedding for a whole year, and now she just seems crushed. Wow, what an awful thing to do to that kid after she's been looking forward to it for so long, and then you deny her any kind of part in the wedding? Jeez. Let's check out the comments. I'm at the point where my oldest cries to me way too often that she hates being with her mum so much she dreads having to spend time there. I feel my current situation may be your future soon. All you can do is make sure she feels happy and loved when she's with you, so you can be there for her when she starts to get older and doesn't want to be around her dad anymore. But it's so heartbreaking. I want my kids to have a good relationship with their mum. I'm not surprised what's happening and do what I can to try to help, as bad-mouthing their other parent never really helps anything. Just keep notes and be ready for more custody hearings as life goes on. You can't help her relationship with her dad, sadly. You're doing all you can, which is to always be there yourself. A lot of children, sadly, don't even have that one parent like you. I would tell her that she didn't deserve to be treated like that she deserves to be treated with love and respect, and telling her things that they didn't make sure to happen wasn't either of those things, that it hurt her, and that was thoughtless and unkind, and that it hurts when those who are supposed to love us the most let us down, and that you are here with her to help her process that hurt. Don't badmouth him, he's taking care of that. Just tell her the truth. It frickin' stinks like nasty cabbage and bean farts. Hold her, listen to her and love her, and then it could help to let her choose some fun activities. I'm sorry for you and your sweet girl. It hurts so badly seeing our babies hurt. Today is cake and ice cream for dinner day. Tomorrow morning might be pancake breakfast, or ice cream and cake for breakfast, just because. Do something unusual with her, to take her mind off the terrible, horrible bad day she had today. Edit. Unfortunately, the dad has provided a great opportunity for her to learn the basics of self-care and self-soothing after a disappointment, a heartbreak. Show her how by being nice to herself with little treats, not about shopping, just self-care at home, including a nice walk around the neighbourhood. But get ice cream and or cake, absolutely, if you can. Okay, now for an edit on the original post. Edited to update. I've read every single comment and all the love here is super reassuring. I appreciate all of the advice and have taken some of it. Seriously, thank you for all the advice. We let her pick out a cake to have, and she loved it. I finally folded and dyed pink streaks in her hair. We have a few mum and daughter things planned out, and she's feeling better today. She even went to cheer and did a fantastic job, though looked a little sad at moments. My husband has been great with her and showing extra love too. I also spoke to a couple different people who are my daughter's family there, but I know are on her side of things. Apparently the stepmom set up most of the wedding. It was unorganised, to say the least. No one was in charge of setup. She was an hour late for her own wedding, and she was supposed to give our daughter a role, but had all of only her side of the family in the wedding. I don't know where he fell in all of this, other than just letting her walk all over him and our daughter. He should have been there to stick up for her. They both had a failure of duty here because neither of them followed through on the promises and well-being of my baby girl. Now I have 2 weeks to plan what to say to them and how to say it. Alright, I reckon we jump straight to the update. So I made a post a while ago here and a few people have requested an update, but be warned, it's a bit long. The gist of the first post is that my daughter, 6 female, went to her father's wedding with all these promises that she would have a big important role and it would be very special. She went, and he didn't communicate where I was supposed to bring her at all, so I was a bit late dropping her off. It was an extra 20 to 30 minutes away. She didn't have a role, and she sat like a guest through the ceremony. She didn't get cake and was brought home early by her father's mum, Grammy. She was crushed. After the events of the post, he went blissfully on his honeymoon, and I picked up the pieces of our child. She was distraught. For days, she would just look sad at moments and go to her room or cry a bit or lay down on the couch or come in for a cuddle. She's been begging me for a year to get some pink hair, so we put some streaks in it, and she absolutely loves it. Her stepdad and I took her on a kind of family date to eat and to a movie with her younger brother, one male. We had loads of fun and did loads of other things like little dance parties in the living room and nail painting, makeup, dress up, anything and everything. We also let her pick out a cake to have after supper the night after. She picked a white cake with sugary frosting, of course. I also placed a ton of calls and got on a wait list to have her see a counsellor or therapist. 8 to 12 weeks, so we may have quite a while to go. I let her know she could talk to me about anything, and she did express her feelings to me in regards to the wedding and how she feels about herself. I listened and reassured her that we all love her, and she is important to us, and so many cuddles. When he returned from the honeymoon, we had a face-to-face conversation on my terms. I decided to not jump into it angry and do my best to be nice in hopes of getting answers and giving her a clear understanding of what his actions led to. I started out by asking him what happened, and he told me that he flubbed on not telling me that I wasn't dropping her off at point A anymore and was now going to point B, that the bride also was a little late. They didn't arrange any setup, so the guests were setting stuff up with the groomsmen and the ladies were inside. Things started up really late. They didn't include her in the ceremony, but had something planned later during the reception. Grammy didn't know she was our daughter's ride home because he flubbed again in not telling her. Grammy also spent the time after the ceremony caring for our daughter while she was cold and sad. Grammy and stepdad were super angry and left, and brought my baby home before the plans for her and before cake. He was really upset how it all turned out. Then I told him about how she came home crying, that we did a bunch of stuff to make her feel better, including dyeing her hair, even though he didn't want that in the past. Told him I'm putting her in therapy to work through this. He cried, still not sure how to feel about that. I don't feel bad that he cried though. I told him we could talk on this more another time. Said, I'm sorry things turned out this way, and left. She's been having some behavioural issues at daycare now that it's summer by not listening and doing things she knows she shouldn't, like climbing the pile of mats. He and I haven't talked more on it, but he can't look me in the eye anymore, and I just don't want to be anywhere near him. He hurt my baby, and I'm still feeling the mama bear in my chest whenever I think about it. Alrighty folks, that's the end of that story. Let me know what you think of that one in the comments. Obviously, yeah, I don't blame the mother for getting defensive about how, the child was treated at the wedding. It's disappointing that she didn't get to do the things that she was really looking forward to doing, but, we all have those moments in our life, and we remember them for better or for worse. Anyway, let me know what you think, and we'll go to our next story. Alright, this one was written in the Today I Effed Up subreddit. It was written by user The Medium Placed, and it's titled, Today I effed up by doing my own makeup before my best friend's wedding. This actually happened today, approximately 30 minutes ago to be exact. I'm currently writing this in an Uber on my way to the airport, and my face looks like this. Opie then links a picture of a guy with a very black eye. Allow me to explain how I got into this situation. I was asked by my best friend a couple months ago to be the best man at his wedding. As he was my best friend and has been since college, I readily accepted. The only thing that's a bit difficult is that I live several states away from him. No big deal. I was planning his bachelor party in Vegas anyway. Amazingly, the bachelor party went off without a hitch, and I was looking forward to the wedding this Sunday. Still am. I ended up staying up way too late last night, and into the early hours of this morning getting everything I needed ready for this weekend, a task in which my ADHD did not help. Anyway, I basically stayed up until 6 AM this morning getting everything ready, and by the time I was done, I was exhausted. I still had about 5 hours before I had to leave for the airport, and figured it would be a good idea to take a power nap to recharge a bit so I could be good for tonight's festivities. When I opened my eyes, I checked my phone and saw that I was already 20 minutes past the time I was supposed to leave for the airport. I bolted out of bed and started to get dressed as fast as I could. I quickly threw on some shorts and a shirt and then started hopping on one foot trying to get my socks on. While my right sock slid on easily, my left sock was being a pain to do while I was hopping up and down. Suddenly, for reasons unknown, I landed wrong and rolled my ankle. As I came crashing to the floor, I also managed to crack my eyebrow off the tiles. With no time to lose, I quickly finished getting dressed and grabbed my bags and tux and left. Now I'm riding in the back of an Uber with a light blue golf ball of swelling hanging off my eyebrow, less than 36 hours from my best friend saying his vows. I'm praying that the swelling goes down and I avoid looking like Rocky for this wedding. Wish me luck. Gee, Opie's lucky it's just a black eye. He could have really hurt himself on the tiles there. We've all been there though, rushing to get ready for something and then you end up hurting yourself because you're not thinking about what you're doing properly. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Get some ice on it, friend. It'll help. Just tell him you got into a fight with the floor. Okay, on to the update. This is an update to a previous Today I F'd Up I posted a few days ago. If you didn't read the first one, I'll do my best to summarise it. I stayed up late getting my bags packed for a wedding. I was the best man in this past weekend. I ended up going to bed in the early hours of the morning and accidentally overslept to the point that I woke up on the alarm telling me it was time to leave for the airport. As I was throwing on my clothes as fast as I could, I was hopping around trying to get a pair of socks on. After getting one on successfully, I came down awkwardly on my ankle on my last hop, crashing to the floor and smacking my eye off the tile. Unfortunately, as I was in a rush, I had no opportunity to grab an ice pack or anything cold to try to avoid a black eye. By the time I got to the plane, I had a purple lump the size of a golf ball covering half of my eye. By the time I got to the hotel several hours later, my eye looked like someone stuck a plum on top of it. Despite getting a decent amount of ice on it during my travels and the night before, I still had a nasty looking shiner the next morning. It was completely swollen shut, and we had the rehearsal dinner that night. After breaking the unsightly news to the bride and groom, the former ticked, the latter peeing himself laughing, we decided that even though there would still be a ton of swelling, makeup would be the best option to cover it for the rehearsal dinner and wedding the day after. They would just do what they could to hide my Quasimodo eye as much as possible. This seemed like a decent solution, and the bride even let the makeup artist doing her makeup to fix me up. By the time she was done, you could barely notice the bruising, though the swelling was a very different story. It was even lucky that my eye could open up a crack by the time the rehearsal dinner started. Unfortunately, I noticed my eye pretty quickly swell back shut after the makeup was applied. It was around the same time that my eye started to itch like crazy underneath the makeup, and while I tried to ignore it, I ended up needing to take the makeup off halfway through dinner and taking a Benadryl. I had discovered that I'm allergic to makeup. Now that I knew how badly I would react to makeup, I told my best friend, the groom, that there was no way I could wear makeup for the actual wedding, offering to wear sunglasses or an eye patch instead. While I wasn't there for the conversation, I was later told that the bride was really upset, but said in no uncertain terms that she wasn't going to have an effing pirate in her wedding. When I woke up on Sunday, the swelling had gone down a bit, but the bruising had gotten much darker. While makeup would have been ideal for then, there was no way I'd be able to deal with the allergic reaction I was going to have. So I showed up to the reception with a black tux and even blacker eye. Things seemed to go off without a hitch for the most part, though I saw the bride's smile fade a bit when we made eye contact while she was walking down the aisle. There was also some instance that I turned the bruised side of my face away from most of the pictures, although the groom featured it prominently in our pictures with the other groomsmen. I really didn't think it ended up being that big of a deal until one of the bridesmaids pulled me aside and cursed me out for not doing more to hide it. Evidently, the bride was really upset and had shed some tears in the bathroom after the pictures, saying I had ruined them. Now, several days later, I texted my best friend to see how the honeymoon is going, and was told that things are good, but his wife is pretty sad about how the wedding didn't meet her expectations, and my face was a big reason why. If it makes her feel any better, I am also unhappy that I look like a panda. Alright guys, that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Honestly, it seems like a bit of a waste of energy for the wife to still be upset about something that was so out of her control. Like, yeah, sure, Opie was a bit clumsy and bruised his eye, but, everyone makes mistakes and it was just unfortunate timing. I think it's a funny story to bring up whenever, you're showing wedding photos to someone and they go, why has he got a black eye? At least it's a bit of a story. And anyone who's got a black eye knows that they stay around for a frustratingly long time, so there was no way this was going to get better before the wedding. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about that one. We'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by Throwaway Account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my cousin selfish because she didn't babysit my daughter? My cousin, who I'll call Ella, got married a couple of months ago. I made her wedding cake as well as almost 150 individually wrapped custom cupcakes. I have a 5-year-old daughter. In return, Ella was going to babysit every Friday from 9 to 2, so 5 hours. This started from after she came back from her honeymoon until August. Obviously, if there was an emergency or something came up, I'd understand. So on Wednesday, she called me up saying she couldn't make it on Friday because her old college friends were in town and she hadn't seen them for a long time. I said this is really last minute and asked if they could just go out another day or after she babysits, but Ella said no. We argued for a bit, and I eventually said she was being really selfish, making plans when she already had others. She got upset and mad at me and said I can't dictate what she does with her time, and it's only one day. We haven't talked since then. People who know of the situation are torn on it. So, am I the a-hole? Sounds to me like they made a deal, and now the friend is backing out on that deal. Let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. You made a deal, and now that she got her side, she's effed you over. Present her with a bill for the baking. Not the a-hole. My initial thought reading the title was you're the a-hole, but reading the post it quickly became a very clear case of not the a-hole. Actually, you bartered time and skills for something she wanted for her time. She got a wedding cake and cupcakes, and in return, rather than money, she was to babysit every Friday for X number of months. It was a deal she agreed to. You provided goods and services on your part, and she needs to pay up now. Seeing friends is not a short notice emergency and doesn't justify her leaving you in the lurch at short notice. People have to pay for the things they buy and the debts they own. Not sure how you'd handle this or if you'd be justified taking or able to take this to small claims court for financial restitution if it continues. I'm assuming you had to pay for a babysitter for today or lose a day's work. Did you offer for her to just pay you instead? Opie replies. When she initially asked me to bake the goods for her wedding, I did ask for actual payment. She asked if there was anything else she could do for me, so we worked out the babysitting deal. Did you have plans for Friday that her nearly last-minute cancellation was impacting? Is it possible Ella's interpreted the, quote, or something in? Obviously, if there was an emergency or something came up, I'd understand. As covering for a last-minute arrangements with friends she'd not seen for a long time? Opie replies, I just said or something for this post. I told her before if she wanted to see friends or go shopping or whatever, she'd needed to let me know at least a week in advance. Obviously, if she falls sick or there's a last-minute emergency, that's different. And yes, I had to call out of work so I could stay home with my daughter, because I couldn't find anyone else to go look after her so soon. It's not just cupcakes. I made the actual wedding cake, as well as close to 150 custom cupcakes. I had to take time off work, and bought and ordered all the supplies myself. She wanted a specific cake design that she originally took to a bakery, and they quoted just to the cake would be around $1,200. She didn't want to pay that much, so she came to me. Yeah, hearing more about the deal they made in that part are definitely not the a-hole for me. What do you guys think? Let me know. Let's go to the update. Okay, I do have an update because I talked to Ella. I was going to make a separate update, but the mod said my post isn't old enough, so I'm putting the update here and hopefully it posts. This is long, so sorry in advance. I've learned my lesson. Don't let people talk me into baking for them without actual money compensation. I honestly thought Ella would keep her side of the agreement. So I did talk to Ella earlier today, and let her know that she went back on our agreement by not showing up yesterday. She was mad that it's only 1 week and it doesn't matter. Ella was aware of what the total cost would be beforehand, which is why we made this agreement in the first place, because she didn't want to pay, and asked if she could do anything else. I wrote up what the cost would be and what I'd charge if anyone else had made this order. She's done babysitting for me twice so far, and I do think she should be compensated for that. The regular sitter I had last year charged $22 per hour, so that's the payment I used for Ella. I subtracted $220 from the cake for her babysitting costs. Ella obviously knew the reason I need babysitting is because I have to go to work, which I had to call out of yesterday since I couldn't find last-minute sitter. So I also added the money I lost from not going to work yesterday. Altogether, the bill came out close to $1,800. I sent that to Ella and said since she went back on our deal, I'm going back on it too and she needs to pay me. Well, all hell broke loose and she totally went off at me, saying this isn't fair and it's just 1 week she missed, and I'm treating her like any random stranger instead of family. I said if she doesn't pay, I'm going to take her to court. To be honest, I don't really know if our agreement would hold up in small claims, but I do have texts that this is what we agreed to and all that. She again got very angry at me and said I'm a crap excuse for family. I talked to her husband as well, and he told me to bring the price down. I said no because this is already less than what the bakery would charge. Ella did eventually agree to pay me back on a monthly basis over the next few months. I said I expect the first payment by the end of this month, otherwise my bill goes up, or I take her to court. So yeah, I guess we'll see if she follows through with the payment. My dad is on my ass saying I'm being really greedy, and this will financially hurt Ella and her husband, but at this point, I don't really care, because I'm already financially hurt. Alrighty folks, so that's the end of that story. Let me know what you think in the comments. Honestly, I think Opie's pretty justified here. It's a bit harsh, but it's a good lesson to teach. So yeah, fair play for me. Am I the a-hole for trying to get back into my kids' lives? I, 28 female, had 3 kids with my ex, 30 male. We were never married, but we dated while I was in college. My senior year, I got pregnant and had twins, both boys. He moved me in with him, and we were raising our kids together. 14 months after giving birth to the boys, I had a girl. Immediately after, I had postpartum depression. I wasn't doing well, and I decided to go back home to my parents to try to clear my head. Once home, I saw my old bedroom, my old things, and I was kind of reminded of what I always wanted to do. I always wanted to take a gap year to travel, but I had gotten a scholarship to my first choice school, and it seemed silly to pass it up. I decided then that this is what I needed to get into the right mental state. I called baby daddy and told him I'm going to Europe for a couple of months. He was incensed and tried to talk me out of it. I explained this is what I needed to go back to being myself and be a better parent and partner. So I went. He called me the first couple of months and kept asking if I was coming back. Eventually, he stopped calling. About 6 months in, my parents told me that he had filed to get full custody of the kids. I was mad he didn't tell me before doing it, but I thought I'd at least take full advantage and really see the world and get it out of my system. I travelled for a little over 2 years and visited every continent. When I was done, I really wanted to see my kids, but I felt guilty for not being present in their lives, and I didn't want to face my ex. One of the friends I'd made in my travels offered me a gig as an English teacher in a private school in Thailand. I took the opportunity and spent the next 3 years doing that. This year, I returned stateside and stayed with my parents. They showed me pictures of the kids and told me my ex let them see the kids a couple of times. I got in touch with him, telling him I was ready to be involved in their lives, and he flat out refused. I threatened to sue for custody, and he just replied, "Good luck with that," and sent my pictures of me partying in Europe. They are not flattering. My parents want to see their grandkids more, but they tell me it's all my fault for not being able to see them. Am I the a-hole for trying to see them? Okay, Opie's delusional. I think we can all agree on that sentiment. Let's look at the comments. You're the a-hole. No matter what was going on mentally for you, you effectively abandoned your children and their dad had to pick up the pieces. You don't get to come in when you're ready and demand things, threaten to sue for custody, etc. These kids barely know you. Your parents are right. This is your fault, and you need to live with the consequences of your actions. You put yourself first, and you don't get to walk in and out of your kids' lives whenever you please. You're the a-hole. Lol, nice try with the, am I the a-hole for trying to see my kids? No, you're the a-hole for thinking you get to walk in and out of their lives when it's convenient for you. You know what else other than years and travelling the world can help with postpartum? Therapy. And you know what? He called you for a couple of months because that's how long you said you'd be gone. He wasn't travelling the world, he was raising his kids. I bet he had one phone number the whole time. Did you think to call and ask how your babies were? So you have every right to try to come back into your children's lives, but you do it on his terms because from this post, it's clear he's the only one that has his priorities straight. He's the only one with the kid's best interests in mind. You're the a-hole. I say this as someone that had my first kid young, and as someone that has battled intense PPD and other forms of depression. You abandoned your children for years. You have no room threatening to sue for full custody against the person that stayed and actually parented them. You can't just jump in and out of your kids' lives as you please. They need and deserve a real and consistent parent, which they have in the form of their father. Yeah, can't disagree with any of these comments. Opie never gave an update, but there kind of is one with more information from a comment of a person who knew the Opie and her ex. Reddit, it's my time to shine. Had to make a brand new account to not reveal anything personal. I know exactly who this is. I know the kids and the dad. Those kids were raised by a wolf pack. When this pathetic waste of oxygen abandoned her kids, basically anyone and everyone who had a passing relation to the dad stepped up. His mum moved in for the first year to help with the babies. Neighbours, friends and relatives all donated or bought kid stuff for them. Clothes, diapers, toys, anything he needed. One of his friends manages a restaurant and he brought them unused food almost every night. I work at a bank, so I had nothing useful to contribute other than money and time. One of our buddies runs an MMA gym and he has a kids class that starts after school, so he'd take them in after school until their dad gets off work. Whenever the kids need a babysitter, 2 or 3 rowdy men show up ready to be horsies or punching bags for the boys and tea party guests for the little girl. One of our other friends is a lawyer. He helped him gain in custody and advised him through the process. Opie's parents are rich and they always offer money to help. On the advice of our lawyer friend, he always refuses. That way they can't use that in any future custody battle. He didn't even let them introduce themselves as their grandparents, so they can't claim a relationship. Their dad is doing well now. Those kids don't want for anything. Every Sunday night, he hosts us to watch football and hang out with the kids. His daughter delights in serving everyone wheat juice. They're so much better off without this witch. Wow, good to hear that the family's happy without her, and yeah, they have every right to not let Opie back into their lives. She seems crazy and entitled. Let me know what you guys think in the comments and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was posted on the Off My Chest subreddit. It was written by user Emma and it's titled, I found my nudes on my brother's PC. Yeah, quick trigger warning for this one, guys. It contains mention of non-consensual nude distribution, exploitation and death. About 2 months ago now, my brother passed away. It has devastated my family and we have been slowly putting ourselves back together. My mum has finally gotten to the point where she is comfortable going through his belongings that got sent to us from his flat, and she gave me his PC, among other bits, to take a look at and see if I could do anything with it. I know a fair bit about computers, so I thought I would set it up to see what still worked. It booted up fine, and to my surprise he didn't have a password on it. He lived on his own, so I guess he never needed to keep anyone out. On a sort of morbid curiosity, I opened the browser. I thought I could maybe see some of the last things he was looking at towards the end, and I saw a link to his Google Photos in his favourites bar. I thought this was an amazing chance to get back some of the photos we might have never seen, get some photos of his friends and adventures he'd been on over the years. On the side, I saw his albums, and one of them had my name on it. In this album was an F-ton of my nudes, videos and screenshots of some of my Instagram posts and stories. I didn't go through it for long, but it was a massive amount. I have no frickin' idea how he got hold of him, or why the heck he'd been collecting them. I used to be in a long-distance relationship with my ex, who loved me sending him pictures and videos, but there's no way he would have sent them to my brother. Now I don't know what to do, which is why I'm posting it here, I guess. I can't tell anyone. I now feel so different about him, and I don't understand why he would have done this. Was he attracted to me? Did he get off to these? Or was it just some sort of compulsion he had? I'm a mix of disgusted and devastated, and I just don't know how to move on from it. I keep feeling a need to go back, and look how far back this collection goes, but I know I shouldn't. Now for some comments. You should probably check his social media and browser history in case he shared the photos. My condolences. Also, you should probably talk to a psychologist. Wow, that's a lot to process for you. You may find it beneficial to talk to a trusted person who is separate from the situation. You need to find a way to accept that you'll likely never know why he had those. You may find out how he got them, but you'll never get why. I'm so sorry you're going through this, after such a short space of time of losing him, to now have the image of him changed. It's so much to process. You must feel very violated. I'm really sorry. That's mortifying on the highest level. To be honest, there's a chance he was selling or posting them online, or catfishing guys with them privately, and if he has so many, I think the only methods that come to mind is that your ex really had sent them, or your brother could access your accounts. His emails, history, bookmarks, etc. would be the best place to look as far as I'm aware, including other device bookmarks linked to the same account, photo metadata. Not sure if reverse image would work unless it was he who was sharing anything publicly. I'm sure you don't want to look any further into this, and I don't blame you, but I am worried for you. Wishing you all the best. If you don't feel able to talk to someone you know about this, I would suggest you seek a counsellor or therapist, etc. soon. Did you know your long-distance boyfriend in real life? Did you leave your phone unattended with your brother? What is your age gap? OP replies, yeah, I knew my ex. We just only got to see each other every other weekend because of his work. I never left my phone unattended that I knew of, but we lived in the same house until I was 18 and moved out, so there's no way of knowing. I only tended to see him every special occasion at my parents' place for the last few years, really. There's a 2-year age gap. I'm the eldest. That's a lot to process. Is there anyone you can talk to outside the situation? A therapist? OP replies, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, I would love to open up to someone, but I don't have that many friends, and those I do knew him pretty well, so I wouldn't want to discuss it with them. I just can't get the image out of my head of him pleasuring himself to pictures he was never meant to see. It's a lot. Yeah, safe to say no sibling ever wants that image. Let's go to the update. First off, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who reached out after my last post. It has been so nice to have the support from you guys, and finally get this off my chest. It's been a roller coaster of a week. I think I can update you in all 3 parts. Firstly, a lot of people were suspicious of my ex, and some even suggested that it was my brother catfishing me all along. I can confirm that's not the case, because I went through all of the photos my brother had of me, and many of them were from before and after my ex was even in my life, so it must have been some account access he had to all of my photos to be able to access from that far back. Second, I did a reverse image search on most of the photos, and most of them have been posted online and reposted all over the place. I'm trying to not think about why he would have done this, and just accept that it's happened. I could go through the massive process of trying to get them all taken down, but it doesn't seem worth it for my own health. Luckily, any photos and videos that ended up on more popular places like Reddit weren't very popular. F me, right? So I'm not worried about them coming back to haunt me. The internet is a massive place filled with naked people, so I'm confident they will get lost to time. And finally, I've booked in with a therapist. I start on Monday and I'm both terrified and excited. We'll see how it goes, but I'm ready to get this all right in my head so I can finally move on. All my passwords are changed and my photos are in safer places now, so I'm ready for my life to start back up again and finally grieve. Thanks again, everyone. Man, what a horrible thing to find out about someone after they've died. God, that must be so confusing and infuriating for OP. I can't imagine. Let me know your thoughts about this one down below and we'll jump to our next one. Alright, this next one was written on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Real Estate Reptile and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to sell my rental properties at my fiance's request? Throwaway because, you know. 2 years ago, I, 36 male, proposed to my fiancée, 30 female, and our wedding is going to be this coming summer. When we met, we both owned properties. She owned a pretty typical luxury townhouse, and I owned 2 properties in the inner city. We both agreed that when it was time to cohabitate, we'd live in her condo. I own an old 2-up, 2-down duplex in the neighbourhood that butts right up against an old industrial area, which I was living in until we moved together. And on the next block, I also own a 4,000 square foot concrete block industrial building. I got them as part of a screaming package deal about 12 years ago when you couldn't give property away in that neighbourhood. I now rent the duplex to a couple of Hispanic families, and God, I hope they never leave me, best renters ever, and I rent half of the factory building to a guy who does HVAC, and the other half to some microbrewery hipsters. The powers of gentrification have been at work in this hood for about half the time I've owned these places, and I'm making boku bucks on these rentals. I could lose my job tomorrow and not even blink. My fiancée does not see it this way. Ever since we've moved in together, she's been pestering me to sell the places. It's been ramping up the closer we get to the wedding. I keep telling her that as long as I own these places, it's a practically guaranteed third source of income and would be invaluable if any of us hit a rough patch job-wise. She doesn't see it that way though. All she sees is a potential big pile of liquid cash that can go towards the wedding, honeymoon, and upgrades to the living situation after. We had the biggest blow-up yet about it last Saturday and I kinda lost it. I'm a saver and she's a spender, and I said that to her in far less pleasant terms, and also mentioned the amount of credit card debt she has, and since then things have been pretty frosty. Am I the a-hole for refusing to sell my second income? Or you can always trust money to be a source of tension in a relationship. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole, and I'm letting you know now, a wedding will not stop the two of you from fighting over finances. It sounds like you both handle money very differently, and she also seems as though she's eyeballing your cash as a way of supporting her lifestyle. If I were you, I'd sort this out before getting married. Not the a-hole. As a female, I want you to really take a look at the differences in your relationship. When I was in pre-marriage counselling, the therapist said, the problems and fights you have now are going to be the problems and fights you have in the future. Whatever it is, money, sex, family, those problems don't go away with marriage. You're both so different with money, you're always going to fight about it. Furthermore, the fact that you bought low and are making money and she doesn't see that as a good thing tells me she's not smart. Like, this is some common sense stuff. Think long and hard about marrying her, dude. Info. I'm a saver and she's a spender, and I said that to her in far less pleasant terms and also mentioned the amount of credit card debt she has, and since then, things have been pretty frosty. What exactly did you say? Look, I don't think you're a jerk for this financial call to keep the properties, but clearly something was said that is less pleasant, and that might be a jerk thing. You probably will get not the a-hole for this, because if it's just an am I a jerk for not selling, the answer is no, absolutely not. But were you a jerk for how you defended that position to your fiancé? I need clarification, lol. Opie then replies, fair. I can't remember anything verbatim, but the worst of it started with, if you didn't spend so much frickin' money on, and ended with, your frickin' credit cards, with a long list of poor financial decisions and items she blows money on every month in between. Look, it wasn't nice, but this crap has been going on for years at this point, and this is the first time I've lit off like that. Won't even be mad if someone calls me a jerk over that. It needed to be said. Okay, now for the update. So, the conversation didn't happen until the weekend of the 14th of March. Life got in the way. It started fine, but quickly went south and ended in a big fight that degenerated into a lot of petty crap slinging by the end. She accused me of not trusting her, fair, and I pointed out that her habits make it basically impossible to trust her with money anyway. Probably not my proudest moment, but I did again make it clear in no uncertain terms that the properties are staying in the LLC and I won't sell them, and that the financial decisions regarding them would be mine alone. I may have also had a few choice words about the princess for a day wedding she wanted. After a couple of weeks of avoiding each other, and not talking, and me sleeping in the basement of the townhouse, I said I wanted to hit the pause button and leave for a while. She was upset but didn't say much. I loaded up my things and went to my parents' house and told them what had happened. They told me I could stay as long as I needed. Somewhere near the end of April, I got a call from her dad out of the blue. What the heck? Demanding to know what was going on and why I'd broken things off. I tried to explain what had been going on, but he was the angry dad of an upset young woman and I don't think I got much through. That call ended with him calling me a scumbag and hanging up on me. I've only had a few properly long-term relationships end in my lifetime, but that's the first time I've had an angry father yell at me about one. There's been no contact since. I'm sad that just over 4 years of my life with someone went up in smoke like this, but that's the way she goes, I guess. My parents didn't seem very surprised when I showed up, so maybe I really was the last one to know what was going on, like so many Redditors were pointing out. For some good news, and also the thing that reminded me to update my Reddit post, is that yesterday I bought another house, one for me to live in. A tiny little brick post-war brick ranch in an old subdivision about 20 minutes from my rentals. It needs work, but I'm looking forward to having a project to take my mind off things. It's going to be strange living on my own again, but I think I'll manage. Yeah, honestly, probably the best outcome for him. I don't think she was going to change her habits, and you can't make a marriage work like that with such differences, on matters like money. Maybe there was somewhere they could compromise, but I honestly can't think of any. Can you? Let me know what you think in the comments. Alright, let's go to our next one. Okay, we're on the same subreddit. This one was written by user Key Concentrate, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not making my fiance's breakfast correctly on the first try, and then getting upset by her comments after? My fiance was working from home this morning. I asked her if she would like some bacon and egg sandwich. She said yes. She does prefer mayo on both sides of the toast when she has this, but as I prepared it all, I forgot. As soon as I set it in front of her, I remembered and said, Hold on, I forgot the mayo. I'll go put it on real quick. To which she replied, Forget it, it's effed now. I got upset by this comment as it made me feel as if I'd somehow ruined breakfast, so I tried to explain that it was an easy remedy and the sandwich was most definitely not effed. She just told me to forget it again, so I went back into the kitchen and finished making my sandwich and sat down. She came in and started to talk about how she thought it would be a fried egg, which again just felt like she was complaining about nothing, as I never said I'd be making a fried egg, just stated bacon and egg sandwich. When I got upset that she still seemed to be complaining, she basically told me that I was wrong, she wasn't complaining, and was just making comments, and I was being a jerk for being upset, since she didn't say anything wrong. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I scrambled the eggs in a bowl with some seasoning and a bit of milk, put it in the bacon grease and waited until it was cooked on the bottom, flipped the egg like a pancake and cooked the other side, cut it in half, and put it on the toast like a sandwich. Honestly, that sandwich sounds pretty good. Let's look at some comments. Not the a-hole. Here's a great solution though. Never make her anything ever again. Or dump her, that's another good option. She sounds entitled and ungrateful AF. The fact that she tried to walk back and twist what she'd said is icing on the cake. I wasn't complaining when I said forget it, it's fricked. I was just making a neutral comment. That's gaslighting, and a pretty abhorrent way to treat you. Not the a-hole. If she's willing to be a jerk over a sandwich, imagine what she's like over other major decisions. Can you just end the engagement, but call it an engagement? No reason, just to infuriate her. Yeah, maybe Opie's fiancé was just having a pretty bad morning. Let's look at the edit. I appreciate everyone's thoughts and concerns. I had no idea this would jump up to almost 400 comments in an hour. Please feel free to keep commenting, but I apologise if I no longer reply. I feel like I got the answers I needed and will be having a deeper discussion with my fiancée tonight when she gets off work. Thank you again everyone. You have all made me feel a lot better and given me the knowledge I believe I need to move forward. Okay, so sounds like Opie's going to confront her about it. I'm interested to see how that plays out. Unfortunately, there's no more updates for that one. I'm pregnant as a virgin and my boyfriend thinks I cheated. Yeah, pretty much exactly what the title says. I, 16 female, am a virgin, so is my boyfriend, 16 male. We're both young and neither of us are ready for sex. Personally, it's never been high on my radar, and from what he's told me, he's the same way. That being said, we've been together for a couple of years now, so things have still happened. I'd rather not go into detail on that, but you can get the picture. Think third base, I guess. Anyways, a couple of days ago, I went to the doctor because I've been feeling really sick lately. I did a urine test and finger prick, and my doctor told me I was pregnant. Of course, I laughed at first because I thought she was joking, but no, I'm really pregnant. I kind of fell silent. She started talking about things like ultrasounds, prenatal vitamins, etc., but I cut her off and told her that wasn't possible because I've never had sex, therefore have never conceived. She explained to me that very, very few women can get pregnant by intercourse, but it's still possible due to vagina autonomy or something. I was, and still am, in complete and utter shock, so I kinda just left without any further explanation. I had driven myself because both of my parents work. I went straight to my boyfriend's house and he was the first person I told. I hadn't even texted or called in advance because I was crying, completely distraught. I don't know why, but it didn't even cross my mind that he would think I cheated. I would never do something like that. I explained everything to him and how we'd never technically had sex, but we got really close, and stuff can happen. He seemed pretty lost until I eventually told him I was pregnant, which is when he, rightfully, got ticked at me, because how the F does that even happen without us having had sex? I tried so hard to explain myself and assure him that I'd never do that, ever. I told him I'd take a DNA test or something to prove that, but he didn't believe a word. It made me go home. The last thing he told me was, "I really trusted you," and he looked like he was about to cry. Now I'm blocked on everything, so I can't text or call explaining myself. I'll respect his decision if he wants to break up, but I need him to know I was never with anyone else. It's been killing me, knowing how hurt he must feel. Luckily, he hasn't told anyone that I'm pregnant, because I haven't even told my parents yet, but he has told people that I cheated on him, and now I'm losing friends, and everything's gone to crap. This was already the worst, lowest point of my life, and it seems to be just getting worse. I've basically locked myself in my room. I feel so depressed. I just need him to know. What the hell is this? You either have sex or you don't. There seems to be something Opie's not quite letting on here. And they're both pretty young, so fair enough that they probably don't really understand what's going on here, and how something like this could happen. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Things have still happened. If this means ejaculate got inside of your vagina, you can definitely be pregnant. Get a paternity test as soon as you can to reassure yourself and the boyfriend. Best of luck with everything. There's not a lot they can test for from a finger prick test. A full blood panel would require at least a vial of blood, probably more. You need to go back to the doctor and explain that pregnancy is highly unlikely and ask them to rule out other possible causes. A complete hormone panel would be a good place to start. A hormone-producing tumour would likely throw off other hormones. An ultrasound would be good to check for ovarian tumours, and if you really are pregnant, they may be able to see something. They would probably do a transvaginal ultrasound, which is going to be pretty uncomfortable if you haven't had intercourse, but it's not too bad. I suggest you see an OBGYN rather than a family doctor for all of this. I'm sorry this happened to you. Teens should be warned that non-penetrative sex can result in pregnancy. It's rare, but it can happen. I hope you will consider telling your parents. Perhaps your dad can talk to his parents. Yeah, for me I'd say that's probably the most likely explanation. Non-penetrative and just a freak accident. Let's go to the update. Hi guys, I'm so sorry it took a couple of days to update. Things have been moving wildly slow and I didn't want to create a whole post for each small thing I had to update. So much has happened. First off, I just want to specify a couple of things. Misconceptions as well as some key aspects I didn't do a good enough job explaining. No, my boyfriend didn't yell at me or call me names. He was angry, you could tell, but it was an extremely short conversation and he was primarily silent. That's the type of person he is. Though we've had very few arguments, he usually goes quiet when he's mad. I'm not saying it was the right way to act at all, but it was understandable in my opinion, as the possibility of this happening was entirely new and confusing to both of us. He also never spread rumours about me, as some people were saying. I want to make that clear. He told his best friend, who told another one of their close friends, and you know how that works. Toxic gossip train. A few of our mutual friends, who were generally closer to him and knew him first, stopped talking to me. Again, that hurts a lot. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I know that if I thought someone had cheated on my friend, I would drop ties with them instantly. I understand things like this seem a lot worse to adults, who maybe forget what it's like to be young and immature, because, we're 16, and that's what we are. I think people also forget that I was making this post very shortly after all of this had happened. He came to my house the morning after I made the post and apologised, explaining that he'd done a lot of research, and felt bad for accusing me. He said he still didn't know if he fully trusted me, but wanted to at least help me while I went through this, because, if anything, we've been best friends since we were small. He came over, and we told my parents together, explaining that I didn't know if it was pregnancy or illness, and I needed to get further testing done. They seemed disappointed that I hadn't told them I was sexually active, but my mum said she was more disappointed in herself for not teaching me about reproductive health. They're being as supportive as they can. So that all happened. Flash forward to the next day, Monday, and I went to the doctor to get more blood testing done. I wanted to update then, but I had to wait until I got the results back, today. So far, after a full blood panel, all signs are still pointing to me being pregnant. The comments kind of got my hopes up, thinking it was most likely something else. My doctor explained that there was actually a slightly higher chance of me being pregnant than there was of a false positive, because it's generally men with cancer who receive those. I don't know if he was going off statistics or personal experience though. I'm not sure since there's still not a positive way to know if it's really a pregnancy, so I have an ultrasound scheduled for this Thursday as it was the earliest appointment available. That will be the only way to properly confirm. If the ultrasound confirms that I'm pregnant, then I'm also going to ask about getting DNA testing as a form of paternity test. Finally, I want to disclaim something. I've lied about a lot of things before, everyone has, but pregnancy isn't something I would ever touch. There are so many women in this world that want kids, but are unable to have them, and I can't imagine what it's like for them to constantly see other people getting pregnant. It feels disrespectful and borderline offensive to lie about something like that, and I would never. I also want to say that I completely understand the people, primarily the ones from TikTok, hi guys, that think I cheated, and this is all a cover-up story. I'm not going to try to win people over because your opinions genuinely don't matter to me. All I'm going to say is that this is a throwaway account that no one I know follows or has access to, so there would be no reason for any of that. If I actually wanted to convince people, then I would have posted it on my main, which my boyfriend and several other friends follow. Again, no one else but my boyfriend and my parents know about this at all, and I don't want them to. On a more positive note, I'd really like to thank all of the supportive comments and messages I got. They outweighed the negatives by far, and it's incredibly heartwarming and honestly surreal. I didn't expect this at all, but thank you. Truly, I had multiple people message me and offer to pay for things like paternity tests, abortion access, and general expenses, and with each and every message, I cried. I can't believe there are such kind-hearted people in the world, but thank you. Me and my parents have this covered, but the offer is enough, and I'm truly grateful for all of it. Hope to keep you guys posted. That's all for now. Edit. Update 2 won't post, so here it is, summarized. There's not much to say. I got an ultrasound and yes, confirmed the pregnancy. I was still holding on to a bit of hope that it might be something else, lol. My doctor gave me a referral to go straight to a blood work lab. I've no idea what they're actually called. So me and my boyfriend could do a prenatal paternity test. I'd never gotten a referral that quickly. Usually you have to wait at least a day, but she sent me over for an appointment just an hour after the ultrasound, which was really great. We did the blood test and saliva swab, and now we just have to wait about a week for the results. Most likely getting an abortion, but still figuring out the safest way to do that out of state. Thank you to the people who have been supportive. Opie seems to be doing a pretty good job at staying calm in this situation, and this post is surprisingly well written for a 16-year-old, very articulate. Alright, let's go to the final update. Hey guys, sorry it's been a while, but I had to wait for results. I tried my best to respond to comments and messages, even on the places this was reposted, but there were lots. Thank you very much to the polite people. The paternity test came back, and yes, like I kept saying, it was his. The only way it wouldn't have been was if it had been sexual assault, which there was an extremely low chance of. But even so, I'm very grateful that nothing happened to me in my sleep, as some people had suggested. We found a great program that several of you had recommended to me called Plan C. They help provide women in no abortion states with abortion pills. It was very mentally difficult for me to go through with, but just this morning the pills came, and we used a telehealth doctor to help. I now officially had an abortion. Woohoo! I was very on the fence about it, and honestly, I'm not doing too well now, but I know it was the right choice. Now to answer some questions. No, I'm not a bot. I'm also not old. I write well because I want to be an author. Writing has interested me since I was in elementary school, and it's something I work very hard at. I took AP Language last year, and I'm taking AP Literature this upcoming year, so I'm well educated in that subject. Obviously not so well educated in sex ed, lol. I think some of you are wildly underestimating how articulate teens can be. We're not entirely clueless. Also, I got the paternity test because I could. Some people said it was strange to get one, even though I was most likely getting an abortion. But I don't think so. Personally, I believe it was very necessary, and honestly, it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be. My parents covered it. No, my boyfriend's parents never found out about any of this, and we don't ever want them to. They're not very good or stable people, and my boyfriend plans on going no contact pretty much as soon as he turns 18. Also, we're both 17 now. Anyways, thank you for all the support on this journey. It's been rough, but I know this all helped so much. Even now, I'm still getting DMs of people offering to help both financially and mentally, and genuinely, that's amazing. I'll still be responding to comments if there are any, but when it comes to posting, goodbye. Alrighty guys, so that's the end of that one. Good to see that Opie kind of managed to get out of that tricky situation. It's not exactly something you want to be dealing with when you're 16. Let me know what you guys think about that one in the comments. Do you know anyone who's been in this situation? I can certainly think of a couple. Maybe you can even relate. Let me know. Also, I just want to read this comment from one of the earlier updates about the possibilities of the pregnancy. I thought it was pretty funny. So, 4 possibilities. 1. Outer course, like you mentioned. 2. You were somehow unknowingly artificially inseminated. 3. You are currently pregnant with the second coming of Christ. And 4. You are currently pregnant with the Antichrist. Alright guys, we'll go to the next story. Okay, this next one was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user RecentExit, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my sister the wedding gift she wanted because of how she treated my girlfriend? My girlfriend Naomi and I have been together for over a decade. My younger sister, Sarah, and my girlfriend have never been super close, but are friendly when we get together. Or I guess they were. When Sarah was in high school, Naomi helped her out with some personal things. Sarah got married a few days ago. When Sarah announced her engagement to the family, she asked Naomi to be a bridesmaid, which surprised us a little, but Naomi was very excited because she's never gotten to do it before and probably won't have the chance. I want to be clear, there was no suggestion from either of us Sarah should ask her. It was about 2 seconds after she told us she was engaged. She said she was so grateful to Naomi for the help when she was younger, and Naomi was very touched. A few weeks later, Sarah posts her bridesmaid proposal brunch. Naomi wasn't there. Sarah never said it to either of our faces directly, but clearly she'd changed her mind. Naomi was hurt, but said she understood because she hadn't expected the ask anyway. That would have been fine, but then a few months later, Sarah asked Naomi to go to the bachelorette party and also come get ready the day of with her friends and bridesmaids. Same thing. Naomi says yes and even helped her find a good place to go and a rental. A month and a half before the wedding, I'm talking to my mum on the phone and she mentions that Sarah's at her bachelorette. No mention of it to Naomi. Now I'm kind of ticked because Naomi was clearly very hurt at 2 invites and then being sort of ghosted. A week before the wedding, Naomi texted Sarah and asked about getting ready and hair and makeup, and Sarah responds acting confused and basically tells her nicely to just come with me. Then I was really ticked. Sarah wanted this really expensive baking mixer thing for a long time, and I got it for her wedding gift. My mum had ruined the surprise, so she expected it. But after everything with Naomi, I felt like being petty, and I cut her a check instead and returned the mixer. A few days after the wedding, Sarah texts me saying, "I don't know how to ask this, but what happened to the mixer?" And I responded, "I didn't know how to ask, but what happened to treating my girlfriend like a freaking human being?" Now my brother and my new brother-in-law and my mum are all texting me saying, "What the F?" and that I'm ruining her happy time. Naomi, for her part, says I probably shouldn't have done that, but she feels a little vindicated. Am I the a-hole? Kind of funny that Opie said that. Definitely not the a-hole for me. The sister definitely brought this upon herself. Let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. Wow, your sister is spacey? Or just an ass? I'm glad you said what you did. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't have even given her a check. I would have bought her a whisk or a spatula and told her, "Oh, Mum must have been confused, just like you were when Naomi asked you about getting ready. But I'm petty like that." Not the a-hole. It's your gift and your choice. I'm very confused about your sister's motivation on all of this though. Does she have a vendetta against your girlfriend and is using the occasion to try to hurt her? Is she very absent-minded and keeps forgetting who she's inviting? Is it possible that your girlfriend offended your sister in some way after the invites? I think having an actual talk with her might be a better way to resolve this issue. Opie replies, "I genuinely don't know. We've never been super close. We see each other 3 or 4 times a month at family get-togethers, but we've always gotten along fine, and I've never known my sister to be a mean person before this." Naomi says benefit of the doubt. She overpromised the bridesmaid spot, but then realised she didn't want a large number. Bachelorette party was a genuine mistake, and makeup and hair was a miscommunication or misunderstanding on Naomi's part, but I don't know how. It's very odd, and I'm asking my mum to explain it to me, and she just says she doesn't want to bother my sister about it now, and we should all act like adults. Not the a-hole. Your sister is playing games with your girlfriend, and or you, and not very nice ones at that. Ghosting her and gaslighting both of you is incredibly disrespectful, and very manipulative and downright mean. Poor Naomi. I'm not surprised she's upset. Who wouldn't be? As for the rest of your family, ignore them, along with your sister and brother-in-law. Your family are all the a-holes for trying to make you back down. Stick to your guns and your girlfriend, my dear. She seems lovely. Okay, now for the update. So I talked to Sarah and things just got more confusing. She said when she asked Naomi to be a bridesmaid, she meant an honorary bridesmaid. She then said for the bachelorette party, Naomi had told her she works most weekends, so she didn't think that Naomi was able to attend and was just helping her to plan. Naomi said that she told Sarah to give her dates so she could take off. Naomi is a very non-confrontational person and had asked me to not bring up the bridesmaid or bachelorette things because she didn't want to feel like she was pushing in at the time, which is why I didn't. The makeup thing, my sister said that Naomi had told her she would do her own hair, so she didn't see a reason for her to come get ready with them. My sister is still ticked at me and says I ruined her honeymoon period. She's not on a trip, and some other really crappy stuff, so I just hung up on her. She also said that not giving the mixer was rude to her and her husband, which is hilarious because my brother-in-law probably can't figure out how to turn on the oven without neon flashing signs. Thanks for all the comments. I've never seen that many on a Reddit post I've ever made in my life. And because I know some of you will want to know what kind of mixer the bride wanted, one commenter says, "I'm just surprised you're still talking to your sister after she treated her like utter crap, not the a-hole. By the way, if it's the KitchenAid stand mixer, everyone puts it on their registry, but probably only half of them have ever actually used it." And then Opie replies, "It was an Arcanium or something, and she probably would because she bakes a lot. But yeah, I'm not talking to her right now anymore." And thanks to another comment, we know it's an Ancastrum original stand mixer, which goes for $750. Alrighty folks, so that's the end of that story. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and we'll go to our next one. Alright, we're staying on the same subreddit. This one was written by user Aside Fearless, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for ruining dinner over a spelling mistake?" I, 25 female, type very fast on my phone and sometimes have spelling errors and grammar mistakes, but as this is a text, I don't think it's that important. I just need the person who I send a message to understand what I mean. I know it irritates my husband as he's talked to me about it before, and for him I usually double check my texts, but last night it slipped my mind. I texted my husband a shopping list as my sister-in-law and her family were coming for dinner and asked him to get some things after work. As I typed quickly, I had written coconut mlik instead of coconut milk. I was making Thai green curry, but I realised I didn't have a tin at home, and I'd made the curry before my husband was back. I just needed to add the coconut milk and reheat it for when my in-laws would come. When he got home, I realised he had bought everything I'd put on the list, except for the coconut milk. I got annoyed when I asked him why he didn't bring that, and he said he couldn't understand what I meant, and that next time I should check my spelling before sending a text. I then told my husband to then figure out what we were serving sister-in-law because it wasn't Thai green curry as he didn't bring the coconut milk. I left my husband to then figure out dinner, and he got us all takeout instead, which he was upset about doing as he had had a hard day at work and I was at home. Okay, for context for those just listening, she spelt milk like M-L-I-K instead of M-I-L-K. I mean, my brain automatically fixes that mistake in my head, so to be honest, I think the husband's being incredibly petty here, and unreasonably so in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. My brother is getting married to my ex and invited me to the wedding. Trigger warning, suicide. I, 39 male, have been a caretaker for my brother, Justin, 33 male, since he was 10. I was only 16 when our parents died. I had to take care of the household because my brother was still very little. I did everything for him. He was the apple of my eye. I guess I spoiled him a lot. I never dated that much because I was the breadwinner for my brother. That is until I met Melissa, 35 female. It was almost 10 years ago. We dated for 2 years. It was great. My brother loved her. One day, I was eavesdropping a conversation she was having with her friend. The gist of that conversation was something like her friend was asking about me. Melissa said that she loves me a lot. She loves that I take care of her in every way. But I'm pretty average when it comes to having sex. Her friend asked her if she's going to talk to me about it, or how is she happy. She told her that her fixture is my brother. She went on to explain how she and Justin have been having an affair for 8 months. She thinks it's justified because she thinks Justin is better in the bed than I am. You can imagine how painful it was for me. I went inside the house, pretending I didn't hear a thing. I confronted Justin about it. I know how to get him to talk. I pressed this matter after he was denying it. He eventually broke down and said it was the truth. He didn't say anything because he didn't want to hurt me. He and Melissa are in love and wanted to get married, but Melissa won't leave me. I was furious. I wanted to beat the crap out of him, but I just told him he's dead to me and left. I also kicked out Melissa, and she stayed with my brother and his roommates. My brother was banging on my door non-stop. I had to move in with a friend and told everyone to not disclose my location to my brothers. His calls and emails were all the same that he was sorry, and he never wanted to hurt me, and he'll break up. I stopped the bank account, something like a trust fund, that I had made for him, that he can access when he is 25. He was not my brother anymore. I went into deep depression. I didn't eat or sleep properly. I would have nightmares of my brother and ex laughing at me that I suck in bed, that if I was good enough she would never have left me. It got so bad that once I stood in front of a train track because it was too unbearable for me. Luckily, my friends saved me. I do not have many friends, but they were my rock. I stayed with them for a year. I went to therapy, I did group sessions. I had a lot of anxiety regarding intimacy, so I didn't date for a long time. My friend encouraged me to try. I did try once with a one-night stand, but it was bad for both of us. I still go to therapy to this day, but other aspects of my life have improved. I focused more on building new relationships with new people. I went to travel and explore more hobbies. I was living for myself. I am in a relationship with someone for 3 years now. We are engaged and we are having a kid together. Wendy, 32 female, is a really nice person. She knows all about my insecurities and problems that I faced because of my brother. She was mature and patient with me. I was able to trust someone enough to be in a relationship. 2 days ago, I got an invitation in my mail about a wedding, and as the title says, it was from my brother. He has kept tabs on me from afar and invited me to his wedding with none other than Melissa. Looking at their names doesn't hurt that much now. I feel numb. If it was 8 years ago, I would have had a meltdown. I still feel this pain that I cannot be happy for my brother's big day. My fiancé suggests that we shouldn't go and delete the invite. Oh man, this guy's had a pretty rough run. Let's look at the comments. Don't go. If he actually gave half a crap about you, he wouldn't have done this in the first place. He's so self-centered he can't even show how much this hurt him. He doesn't deserve your support. If he tries to press you on this, just hang up on him or delete him. If he shows up at your house, don't answer. He made this bed, make him lay in it. I wouldn't have been as strong as you, man. I'm in shock and in a rage of the heartless people who hurt you. I could never imagine how horrible this must have made you feel. Opie replies, "There's nothing more I want than to watch them suffer. I have no love or blessing left for him. When my parents died, they told me to look after him, and then when we are adults, we will look after each other. He threw it all away. It doesn't hurt that Melissa cheated. It hurts more that my own brother has cheated me." I could only finish reading the first paragraph. I would just pretend I forgot his wedding day and turn my phone off that day. Yeah, hard to disagree with the comments here. What do you guys think? Let me know. Alright, let's go to the update. Hello guys. I was thinking about making an update soon. I know people on Reddit really like updates, but I delayed it because I have a baby girl now. When I posted this, my fiancé, now wife, was already 8.5 months pregnant. We had an early delivery. My baby girl, Emily, is so cute. She's a little bundle of joy for both of us. She is so tiny and cute. She has eyes just like mine. I cannot believe we made something so precious. I spent as much time as I could holding her. My wife gets ticked because she thinks I'm going to coddle her to death. Also, my fiancé and I got married pretty quickly. It was a court marriage. Neither of us wanted a big wedding anyways. We are all fine. Some of you asked me how my brother knew my address. Well, he didn't. He only knew my email, my work email. He probably knows what company I go to, so from there he tracked down my email and sent an invitation. A few days ago, I get another email from my brother. I forgot to block him. I usually don't check my work email because most of them are forwarded in Slack. My brother made a huge ass email. He basically told me he knows I'll not come to his wedding, but still wanted me there for his big day. He apologized for what he has done and that he would never forgive himself for doing wrong. He knew he shouldn't have slept with Melissa, but he did it anyways. Growing up, he had been jealous of me. He was jealous that I'm the more capable brother who was just babysitting him. When Melissa approached him, he felt like he had more importance. He knew he was wrong. He wanted to stop. The day I said he was dead to me, he had a panic attack. He tried his best to contact me, but my friends refused to give up my location. He was begging them. He and Melissa split up for a while. He was desperate to find me. He hit rock bottom when he heard from a friend of his that I tried to commit suicide. Even his friends judged him harshly after what he has done. His friends saw me as a big brother too, so they all refused to be at his wedding with Melissa. Melissa and he reconciled 2 years ago. By that time, Melissa was a single mum. She feels guilty about what she's done because the father of her child has cheated on her and left her. She also wanted to meet me and say sorry. From there, they rekindled their romance. Lastly, he said he cannot go through with the wedding. He called it off and he fought with Melissa and they broke up again. He wants me to be with him on his most important day. He knows I've disowned him, but he is willing to do anything to reconcile, even if it takes him his whole life. That's it. There was a bunch of whining stuff that I ignored. I deleted the email. My therapist said, forgiveness isn't something that is forced. It comes from subconscious level when we know we can forgive that person. And it should be an option only when someone shows that they are sorry by their actions and not by their words. Honestly, I don't want to. I know I'm being petty and cruel, but I'm happy the way my life is. Adding him will cause stress. My wife told me to forget it. My brother is not guilty at all. As soon as I forgive him, he would go back to Melissa. He needs to figure out his life, his own. I've babied him enough. Now it's his turn to be an adult. Edit. People are asking me about my brother's life, so I want to clear it up. I do not have any idea what he's been doing with his life. I moved away from my place further from him. I transferred my job too. He must have known my place of work from where he got the email. For 10 years of my life, I pretended he doesn't exist, along with therapy. I treated him like he was someone dead. I don't know what went down with him and Melissa, but from his email I can paint a picture that they broke up after dating for a few years. His friends were unhappy with him dating this woman, and they decided to drop the wedding because of Melissa. My brother told me he doesn't want to get married unless I'm there to support him. That could be anyone. It doesn't have to be Melissa. Why Melissa came back, I don't know. Maybe she thought I would accept her like a doormat, but she knows me better than that. I'm stubborn when it comes to holding grudges. I didn't know I had an impact on his friends so much. They were good people who would hang out with us. Though they were younger, they treated me like their own brother. I did get apologies from 2 of his friends, who never had a positive male role model after I blocked my brother. I don't have any contact with them. Now for a couple more comments to finish up. Well, OP, your brother is facing the consequences for his actions harshly, but every choice we make has a price, and he should have known that when he was meeting your ex behind your back. I don't blame you at all. Melissa got what she deserved. Her ex cheating on her is her karma for having slept with your brother. You've done so much for him, and I think that if he truly regrets what he did to you, he'll get back on his own feet without asking for your help. I wonder how he even had the audacity to invite you to the wedding with his now ex, knowing how much both of them hurt you. You were right for not attending. Forgiveness can't be forced. Whenever you think you're ready to forgive him, you will. If not, then not. I don't judge you for not forgiving him. OP replies, if he truly regretted this, he wouldn't have decided to marry Melissa, the woman who destroyed my life along with my brother. What did he think? I'll forget all the pain and trauma they've caused me? Forgiveness doesn't set you free. It creates a different trap. Over the years, I've learned forgiveness is a tool made by cowards who just want to get away with their wrongdoings without facing any consequences. They think having forgiveness removes the toll of guilt they have. True forgiveness is never forced. It is earned. He still has done nothing to earn that. Okay, that's the end of that story. Let me know what you think about that one in the comments. Honestly, I think OP's completely justified in his actions now. Like, the betrayal he felt must have been on a completely other level. And yeah, the absolute gall of the brother to invite him to the wedding with the ex. Like, that, what does he expect, honestly? Anyway, give me your thoughts about this one, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, we're sticking with the Off My Chest subreddit. This one was written by user Honest Sky, and it's titled, I just blew up at my family, and I have honestly never felt better. For some background, I, 25 male, am the only male in my family, not including my son and nephews. Over the years, I've often been the forgotten one in the family, or the one who is expected to just give things up for others. However, more often recently, it has been the constant need for favours, from building furniture, to sorting out different technology, to being the adult figure at an event for the younger ones due to them being unable to make it. For example, when growing up, I would often be left home alone while the others in my family went out for meals or for a girls' day. Once also being left with other family members so that they could go on holiday without me. Or I'd be expected to take my dad's old clothes. He lived separately from my mum, while my sisters got brand new everything, from clothes to big trips to having their prom entirely paid for, while I had to stay home during my prom. So onto what caused me to blow up. Yesterday was Father's Day, as mentioned. I have a son myself, and since I'm the only male, I'm also the main male role model for my nephew. I do not wish to sound whiny, but this is now the 4th year in a row that I've been completely forgotten about. I'm a simple person, so I do not expect nor like big celebrations or gifts. I just wanted a simple message saying, Happy Father's Day. Now, I would usually be able to ignore this and move on. However, Mother's Day in our family has always been a huge event, with constant gifts, meals, etc. Wishing for a simple message seemed so small in comparison, so I didn't feel like I was asking too much. It was not as if they'd completely forgotten about it, as various members of the family posted about Father's Day, including little posts for those who have unfortunately passed away or are no longer part of the main family unit, like my father. So this ended with me blowing up at my family for constantly asking me for favours and to make sacrifices when I can't even get the smallest bit of acknowledgement in return. Honestly, I said a lot of things that I've been holding in for the longest time, and I don't think I've ever felt better getting it off my chest. Edit. First off, I would like to say thank you for all of the support. It genuinely does mean a lot. As for what some people have been asking, I've tried to talk to my family in the past about feeling like I've been treated unfairly. Communication isn't my strong point. I was diagnosed with high-functioning autism and Asperger's just last year, and it has always resulted in my family, mainly my mother and sister, accusing me of lying or misremembering stuff. As for the blow-up, it resulted in my mother lying about getting me something every single year. Not true, as I keep absolutely everything that has anything to do with my son or Father's Day, and then trying to make me feel guilty for being angry, followed by her quickly leaving the family group chat. My sister, however, quickly jumped in and started trying to belittle me as a father and defend my mother, followed by removing me from the group chat before I could reply. The only one on my side in all of it is my grandmother, who is the only one to treat me fairly. Overall, both my sister and mother completely missed the point I was trying to make and acted like I'd asked for a huge celebration for me, when all I had said was that I give a lot to the family. It would have been nice to just get a simple message from them. Yeah, geez, the way Opie tells it must be so frustrating. Let's look at the comments. Solid. Good on you. People like that are just so frustrating. And once again, have a great Father's Day. You have to assert yourself within the family. Don't expect them to change though. Good for you. Men are not disposable. They are not worthless, nor are they worth less. That's a terrible attitude of theirs. Please make your son and nephew aware that they have value and they are good. Hugs. It took long enough. And when they keep calling, tell them no, that you have better things to do, like to hang out with your child. They want you to babysit their kids? No, I'm busy. You are a parent. You do not need to fill the role of anyone for free labour. Opie replies, thank you for this. Unfortunately, in the past, when I've told them no, it has led to me being repeatedly shouted at, or guilt-tripped, or just completely ignored for weeks. What specifically did you say when you blew up? Did you blow up to everyone all at once? Was it in person? What was their reaction? Opie replies, we have, more accurately now had, a family group chat. Just after midnight on Father's Day, I sent a simple message in there telling everyone that I'll no longer be doing people any favours. When asked why, I simply asked them what day it was. This was followed by my mother claiming to not have had internet connection all day, despite sharing things on Facebook throughout the day, and claiming to have gotten me something every year, which is just completely not true, as ever since my son was born, I've kept anything to do with him in various memory boxes, from cards to gifts to little school things he's done. This was followed by me calling her out personally in the chat for not making any effort with me for years, pointing out that she has messaged me twice this year and visited my house 3 times in the last 3 years, but then always expects me to make constant effort for her or do favours. We live less than 10 minutes apart. My mother then left the chat and hasn't messaged me since. My sister then jumped in and started saying I was being unfair by calling out my mother and tried to belittle me, and then quickly removed me from the group chat before I could reply. Wow, Opie's family seems delusional. Let's go to the update. For those who have seen my last post, I thought I'd give you an update. Following me blowing up at my family, I received multiple messages either belittling me, playing the victim, or calling me unfair. So after a lot of people giving me the same advice, I've decided to cut them out of my life, mainly my mother and sister. I'm still in contact with my grandmother and younger cousins, as they have genuinely done nothing wrong and have been on my side. However, my mother has decided to be petty. In our family, each of us pays for a different streaming service and shares the accounts. My mother decided to change the password to her account and kicked me off of it, so I've done the same with the service that I pay for. I will, however, be logging my cousins and grandmother back into it, but not revealing the password. So yeah, I've cut off the ones who would make me feel worthless, and they've decided to be petty in return. Man, such a shame that people have to act like that. You know, Opie calls them out on something justifiably so, and instead of, I don't know, maybe apologising and, accepting your wrongdoings, they decide to be petty about it and pretty much tear the whole family apart. Like, what sort of toxic thought process does that entail? Anyway, that's the end of that story. Let me know what your thoughts are about it in the comments, and we'll go to our next one. Okay, this next one's a quick one from Legal Advice. It was written by user Moofy Moose, and it's titled, "Neighbour is suing me because one of my horses nearly killed her kid. She is suing me for around $5,000 and for legal fees as well. Now, she let the kid climb into the paddock with my stallion, who is extremely aggressive and territorial. This woman has been told multiple times to not come onto our property or even touch our horses. Is there any way I can make a counterclaim to it? I have footage of her letting her kid pet the stallion and some of our other animals. I could pay this off, but I don't want this on my record, as I'm about to go and buy 10 or 15 more horses to fill in land at our farm. I just need to know how I can get this woman to stay off our property permanently so that this does not happen again." Let's look at some comments. This is like the classic, "my neighbour's kid snuck into my yard and drowned in my pool" cases. Whether or not they have a claim comes down to their ability to prove negligence from your end, or that your animal was extremely vicious. Did you have proper fencing? Did you have any signage? Was a horse you knew to be dangerous in an area too easily accessible? Have you previously allowed them to do this or similar? If they had no permission to enter your property and purposely climbed over your fence, then it'd be hard for them to prove from their end. Your homeowner's insurance may actually have a personal liability clause in there that covers you against these type of lawsuits, by the way, so definitely check there. If you don't already have liability insurance, you should 100% get it if you'll have many horses. As for your property, put up no trespassing signs and or a fence around the perimeter. If you see her coming up again, then call the police. In any case, you should get a lawyer to advise you on this. Opie replies, "I have fencing all around my property and the stallion is kept in a paddock with double fences just because of how mean he is. We also have no trespassing signs and they aren't allowed near any of our animals, let alone on our property." Wow, no trespassing signs, double fenced, and this lady and her kids still find their way to get hurt. Yeah, I think Opie's pretty safe here. Let's go to the update. So my insurance took care of it, and I only had to pay about $2,000 for damage to my property. Now she was charged with child endangerment and abuse. Apparently they found out that she kept them out of school and was using them to get money from her husband. The stallion is also fine. He also gets lots of treats. Oh well, that backfired on the mum, didn't it? I guess there's a lesson in life there. Don't sue anyone unless you yourself are squeaky clean, and clearly the mum wasn't.
My adopted brother feels as though the family doesn't love him. My parents have 5 kids, 27 female, 26 male, then me and my twin and our adopted brother are all 23, and we are 23 female, me, and then 2 23 males. John was adopted when his biological parents, who were close friends with our parents, died when he was a few months old. So this has been a slowly building thing for years now, but really got called to everyone's attention in the past 5 years. I remember growing up with John, normally, as any siblings would, and all of our other siblings say the same. We played, we fought, we made up, we broke our parents' crap. The past 5 years have been somewhat strange. At first we thought it was just John being John, but now after I've spoken with him, we discovered it was more than we thought. First off, John left the day he turned 18, which was a surprise because he had good grades and everyone assumed he'd go to college like the rest of us. He graduated 1 semester early and left the house on his 18th birthday, which was a shock to everyone. He earned money doing chore work for our dad and uncles and had bought his own car and apparently saved enough to get an apartment. It was weird, and my parents were sad, but more than that, they were proud and happy for him. Dad offered John money to help him start out life on his own, but John refused and said he'd be fine. My parents were insanely proud of John. They're not typically the brag on my kid kind of people, but they were telling everyone how independent and responsible and mature and fearless John was. Now it's important to note that us siblings were always fairly close. I cried the first night John was gone, and wanted my dad to figure out a way to make him come back, because I was scared he died or something. So when the communication suddenly was almost nothing, it was weird and we missed him, but our parents said that he was busy working and taking care of himself, and that when he'd settled and figured things out, he'd be back to his normal self. It never happened though, and he also stopped really talking to them. He'd talk to us around birthdays and holidays, but even then it was strange. He always tries to meet up with siblings for dinner or drinks on birthdays, always visits our parents very quickly on their birthdays and Mother's and Father's Day and on Thanksgiving and Christmas. He is in and out. For example, our older brother was the only one there when John was there for our mum's most recent birthday, and he said John was very clinical and that it felt more like a soldier was paying respect to a commanding officer than anyone visiting their parents. One thing about this that stood out was that John talked to our mum and dad and brother about a lot going on in his life. Apparently he's got a girlfriend and just got a dog and has a great new job in construction. No one knew any of this, and Dad cracked a joke about how they were terrible parents because how could they not know anything that was going on in one of their kids' lives. After John left, our mum looked sad, and when our older brother asked her what was wrong, she said that it felt like John didn't want to be around her and that she missed him, before she refused to say anything more about it. So our older brother started a group chat with everyone but John to ask about if any of us had noticed anything wrong with him. We'd all talked about how distant he'd been over the years, but never like this talk. At the end of it, we all arranged to meet up with John and try to talk to him to make sure everything was okay. It took some effort to get him to open up, but he finally did, and what he said has really rocked our family. He said that I'm not their real son. We all immediately tried to reassure him that Mum and Dad love him, and we do too, but he had all these stories about how Mum and Dad treated him differently. There were lots of examples, things like older brother would hug or kiss Mum on the cheek, but she'd push John off if he tried the same. Dad would happily talk sports with anyone, but would be short with John. Our grandparents were never excited to see him, aunts and uncles not interested in him or his hobbies or what was going on at school. One incident where Dad asked each boy to go on a hunting trip and never asked John until they were leaving, and when he did finally ask, you could tell Dad was annoyed, and my brothers did confirm this one because they thought it was weird how Dad acted too. When John said he was fine with not going, they said Dad looked happy about it. John would ask for help with schoolwork. Mum or Dad would say they were tired or tell him to ask teachers, but they'd stay up with the rest of us. You get the idea. There was a lot of stuff, and enough of us witnessed it that we don't think he was misremembering things or making them up. John wasn't bitter or angry about this. He said that he understood that they wouldn't be able to love him the same way they loved us, and that it would be inhuman of me to ask that of them, which broke my heart. He said he refused the money from Dad because he would have felt badly about him using it on him instead of his real children. He said he will always love them and respect them and be grateful for their sacrifices for raising him, but that it was too painful to be around them for too long because he knew they couldn't be what he wanted and that he couldn't be what they wanted. Our oldest sister was impassioned by this and told my parents about it. It was a crap show. Mum crying, Dad punching a wall. They're both ashamed and hurt and insist that they love him just as much as they do the rest of us. Now that John knows, our parents know he's upset and is apprehensive about coming around, which is understandable. We love our brother, and our parents love him too, and we all miss him. How do we fix this? Let's go straight to the comments. Coming from an adopted child, feeling like you aren't accepted by your family is your worst nightmare and the most painful experience I've ever been through. I've only been rejected, slightly same way as your brother, by my uncle, and it has caused countless nights of just crying myself to sleep because I'm not enough. I'm not his niece, never will be. I truly hope he can find a way to fix it, but please understand it might not ever be the same. Since you are close, it might patch itself up easier between you two, but the hurt your parents and sister have done is unbelievable. Ask him what he wants you to do next. Reassure him that you're still his sister, and if he doesn't want you to be a sister to him, be a friend until he's able to realize you are truly his sister and you love him. Please also keep an eye on his mental state. The realization I had with my uncle led me down a dark road of depression and very scary thoughts. One thing that helped me was doing the DNA testing and finding birth family members. Maybe he has some other members of his birth family that he could reach out to and meet. My heart is with you. I wish you, your family, and your brother all the luck. I have a similar relationship with my stepfather. It never felt like I was one of his kids. He wouldn't get me from school. He would be very impatient with me, and very patient with his kids, disowned me over an argument once, etc. It is always weird coming back to my mum and visiting. Like John, they brag about me, but I never felt like I was his kid because he didn't treat me like the rest. Really seems like John is already trying his best to not abandon the family. He meets up for dinners with everyone on their birthdays and holidays. He just saw the mum on her birthday and shared a lot of detail about what's going on in his life. He just got an intervention from his siblings where he shared very honestly the problem that he had, and in such clear long detail, a lot of examples, that none of you seem to have gotten offended or insulted along the way, and in fact seemed sympathetic and somewhat conciliatory by the end. And this is for a lifelong soul-defining conflict which none of his brothers or sisters ever noticed. People are sensitive about things like that. He had to carefully walk you all through it to pull that off. He'd thought about it before but didn't want things to blow up or family to get hurt. He did not want the parents to know this and never would have told them out of respect. He never would have told his siblings either, but they put him on the spot and he decided to open up to them about it. Look, I've heard similar about adopted children leaving the house as adults. They largely disappear for at least a while. Life without that stigma of feeling like a second-class family member is pretty jarring. It actually feels great to not see your family, even if they were ostensibly close, just to not get flashbacks of those feelings. This is why they seek out their birth parents, and no one can understand why they ignore the parents who raised them. My birth mother may have been a crack tramp, but at least I believe she's looking at her real son. For how we fix this, I'd say the parents and older sister need to get over their personal hurt and expect a somewhat distant relationship to continue and accept it as his terms and that his perspective is the one they can never understand. Wait for him to see them on their birthday. Thank him for showing up despite how hard it must be for him. Tell him they hope he can forgive his sister for the breach of trust, and show him they empathize with the burden they unintentionally placed upon him, acknowledging their mistakes. Lastly, tell him they will always be there for him if he needs them, and that's it for them except for waiting and hoping. For how you fix this, pick up the phone and tell him he's important to you, and you are so sorry you didn't realize what he was going through. Offer that you never would have told your parents and never expected anyone else to do that either. Don't tell him how much everyone loves him, avoid that phrase. Tell him you really want just you alone to meet his girlfriend and his dog. How about next Saturday? Be a little protective and lightly interrogate her. Since he's a guy, I assume she's never seen any of his baby or little kid pictures, so get set up to whip out a few. Be the one who shows up. Be the family he wants to fit into his life. Yeah, that seems like great advice. I guess you're really just riding that line of trying not to be too pushy. Let's go to the update. The first people I wanted to really talk to were my parents. I didn't share everything John shared with us in the thread I made, but there were so many things they'd done that were just downright cruel. This conversation was fairly quiet and extremely emotional. I only write adopted brother here because I want to communicate with the people reading, but in my heart, he's just my brother. So when I detailed the things John remembered, I began to cry, and it hurt even more because I almost wanted my parents to deny. I wanted them to be sure they'd never do anything so mean, and that maybe John was remembering things wrong. They never denied anything though. When specific instances arose, you could see them turn their heads or eyes away in shame. They'd get up and pace, put their heads down, never a denial. When I asked them, most times they'd say they didn't realize they were doing something, or that they were too careless. They kept saying that there was no excuse for it. I asked my father specifically about the fishing trip he didn't invite John on. He said that he'd asked some of the other boys, it just never crossed his mind to go out of his way and ask John. I asked them both why they didn't help him with homework, or make sure their 18-year-old leaving had a solid plan and would be safe. I never got a response on that. I asked my mum about why she pushed John off when he tried to be affectionate towards her, and her response is the one that really leaves me at a loss. She was very honest and said that in her mind, she couldn't ignore the fact that he was a sexually mature male who was not biologically related. She said it felt no different having my other brothers hug and kiss her as babies as it would today, but that around the time John went through puberty, she couldn't see him as one of her babies anymore. She said her instinct then became to protect her daughters just in case. She said it was hard and she wasn't happy about it, but she'd rather have protected us and gone too far to John's detriment than been too lax to our detriment. She said when John left, she felt relieved. After talking with them, I spoke with my older sister, who was still very angry. Same with our other siblings. We all, the siblings, love him and want him back in our lives like before. We don't want to lose him. I reached out to John and it was a bittersweet conversation to have. We both were happy to be talking to each other. We still have our inside jokes and things like that, and we could hang out like nothing ever happened. But when we spoke about re-establishing our old relationship, he said it would be difficult. He said he would love to be my brother, but that he feels gross around us girls because of Mum, and that he feels like less than around our brothers. He said that loneliness sucks, but that it's better than feeling like people would rather not have you around. He said he felt like a family friend that everyone liked, but who stuck around too long. We both ended up crying. It was very ugly. We at least decided that we'd try as siblings. Oh geez, what a sad story. Yeah, I really can't imagine what that brother would be feeling. Imagine having that realization after all those years that you're kind of an afterthought. Geez, it must be horrible. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below and we'll go to our next story. Alrighty, this next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user The Pirate Sovereign and it's titled, Would I be the a-hole if I uninvited a friend from a party because of her hygiene? My friend Addie has always had a slight smell. She lives a bohemian lifestyle. As a result, she doesn't always have a reliable place to do laundry or shower. She's a fun person to hang out with, so I just accepted it as one of her many quirks. However, within the past 8 weeks or so, the smell has become much worse. It's an intense, musty odour that fills whatever small space we're in and sticks to any cloth she comes into contact with. For example, if Addie sat on my bed, I'll have to strip the sheets to wash after she leaves, or the smell will stay in my room. The last time she came over, my housemates complained that the smell drifted all the way downstairs from my room. Now that Addie's problem is affecting the other people in my life, I have to acknowledge it. Because the issue got worse within the past few months, it could be signs of a health issue, physical or mental. I don't know how I could ever bring up the smell with Addie herself. How can you broach a subject like that without utterly embarrassing the person? So, the jerk part. Months ago, before the smell got worse, I invited Addie to a party I'm hosting. Now I'm concerned that her hygiene issues will impact the enjoyment of my other guests. Do I lie and tell her it's cancelled and postponed, and still hold it for my other friends? Or do I address the issue directly? This seems a bit tricky. How do you bring that up? Let's go to the comments. You would be the a-hole if you uninvite her without explaining why. It's not hard to take a shower. If the both of you care enough about each other to want to continue to be friends, it's not hard to find a compromise both of you will like. You will just need to communicate. Perhaps you can invite her to show up earlier to shower at your place. It is surely less embarrassing for her if you talk to her about it in private, compared to her embarrassing herself to everyone who smells her and not even knowing about it. You would not be the a-hole, but only if you mention the hygiene issues beforehand and help her rectify it before and as a completely separate issue to the party. Don't mention it in the same conversation, not even on the same day. If the issue is lifestyle, do you have facilities, washes for her clothes, showers, etc., that you are able to offer her to use? If it could be mental or physical, is there anything that could be stopping her from accessing help herself? Not the a-hole. This is a tough situation. I had a friend who was casually seeing a guy once with really bad hygiene, to the point where it was also making her house smell, and she would have to do her bedding every time he'd leave as well. She eventually brought it up to him, and he said he knew, he was aware, and that he didn't care and wouldn't be doing anything to change it. He didn't change after, so she stopped seeing him. If it's really that bad, maybe she knows and doesn't care either? I think either option has the same results. You either tell her it's cancelled and still have it, she finds out and you tell her she smells, or you just tell her she smells from step one. This is a super awkward situation, as you're aware, and there's no polite way to tell someone they smell without causing a fight and or embarrassing them. but you don't deserve to subject yourself and your friends to her odor problem either. Not the a-hole, and good luck. Okay, now for a small edit and then onto the update. Thank you to everyone who gave me the honest assessment that yes, I would indeed be the jerk if I excluded my friend without explanation. I have a tough and uncomfortable conversation ahead of me, but it's one that needs to happen. Thanks especially to those that offered gentle talking points. I sincerely hope the issue isn't a symptom of something that requires treatment. If it is, then it's better to bring up sooner rather than never. If it isn't, and just a matter of having access to cleaning facilities, I'll check with my housemates before opening an invitation for Addie to use my own. Thanks to everyone for your frank advice, it's much appreciated. Okay, on to said update. I followed Reddit's advice and took the issue to my friend directly. I asked Addie to meet at a coffee house, so we were on neutral ground. I decided to bring it up closer to the end of our meeting, so she didn't feel awkward through the rest of our catch-up. I said, "Hey, I need to talk to you. Something has changed in the past few weeks and I wanted to make sure you're okay. I've noticed a strong smell. Do you have a place to shower or do laundry? Do you need help?" I let her know I felt the need to bring it up because I care for her, and as friends we need to look out for each other. Addie was, as expected, mortified. It really hurt to see her so distressed. She apologized several times for causing me discomfort. She really is too nice. She assured me that she did have access to those facilities and didn't know what the cause of the smell might be. Because she was assertive about wanting to solve this problem, I offered that maybe it was the new clothes she thrifted. Some garments require special care, like dry cleaning. Addie said that was possible and assured me that she was going to start working on a solution as soon as we said goodbye. It was predictably awkward after the news broke. When I left, I was sure I lost a friend. But since then, we've been texting jokes and personal updates as per usual, so I think we're okay. As for the problem, I don't know if it's been put to rest quite yet. We both got new jobs recently and we won't be able to see each other until right before the party. I should probably have another brief coffee date before then to see if Addie's solution worked. But now that the subject has been breached, I feel better about bringing it up in the future, if needed, especially because Addie will know where I'm coming from, a place of love and concern. Thanks to everyone for your frank assessments before and your very helpful advice. I'm really glad I listened. And now for the final update. I saw Addie recently and the smell is gone. She asked me if I could still detect it, and when I said I didn't, she told me that she had laundered her entire wardrobe, so it seems the issue was indeed laundry-based. We're both really excited for the party, and I'm so glad that she'll be there. I think in a weird way, being honest about the situation actually made us closer as friends. Thanks again, everyone. Yeah, in all truth, in about 99% of situations, being honest is always the best thing you can do. Anyway, I'm glad this situation got sorted out. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.